Through it all.
Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Texas, a division of Healthcare Service Corporation, a mutual legal reserve company.
This is the Dallas Cowboys Pepsi Postgame Show. Pepsi, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, here's Zach Wolchuk and Bryan Broaddus.
In that red zone, 2nd and 10 at the Panther 19. Left to right in the white jerseys and silver pants. Ferguson in motion to the right. Snap to Prescott out of the gun. He's going to the end zone. It's caught. Touchdown for Schoonmaker. Perfect throw and catch. 18 yards for the first touchdown.
Scooney got the scoring started as the Cowboys go on to improve to 7-3. They're now 500 away from AT&T Stadium at 3-3 on the road. 33-10. Cowboys get the win in Carolina over the Panthers. Bryan Broaddus, the Super Bowl winning scout, alongside myself, Zach Wolchuk. That indeed opened up a 7-0 Cowboys lead. Things got tight there in the third quarter. Cowboys offense didn't do much. You had a 17-play, 70-yard drive from Carolina that was extended off a running into the kicker penalty to make it 17-10 after a touchdown from Bryce Young to Tommy Tremble. But then Tony Pollard with a 21-yard touchdown run, and Daron Bland, his 4th pick 6 of the season to make it 30-10. That was all she wrote as the Cowboys get the road win. Your early observations from this one as we party until 6 o'clock, 877-881-1053. We want to hear from you. That's 877-881-1053 here on the official postgame show of your Dallas Cowboys. Bryan, your thoughts?
Back-to-back games, though, with the for the offensive line, when it comes to the protection, we'd worried a little bit about Steele. I'm going to watch the All-22 tomorrow morning, as I always like to say, but kind of felt like, Brian Burns, was he really, really a factor today? You were worried about that. They did a really nice job, with the protection. There was some contested routes down the field. I felt like in the second half that Mike kind of found a little bit of some rhythm, getting his guys open a little bit. I thought he got a little too cute in the first half. I tweeted out, I hate cute football. I felt like this was a game that they could have run the football and established a little bit, and they did at times. Tony Pollard tonight, or this afternoon, excuse me, I'm so used to doing night games and late afternoon games, but Pollard looked like this game he had a little bit more juice, a little bit more explosiveness. Looking forward to seeing how those cracks, those gaps, those creases, all those things developed, and he was able to hit those with some quickness. And he'd been struggling with that. And then Micah Parsons last week was, him having to probably play a lot more coverage in the game. He did have some opportunity last week on some one-on-one rushes, just didn't get home like he did to this afternoon. And back to being that guy that we've all grown accustomed to see play every week.
Yeah, no question. Micah today, a career high 3-sack game. Last Cowboy player with 3 sacks in the game, DeMarcus Lawrence, last year at the Giants in that victory on Monday Night Football. So, we thought that maybe there would be an offensive line, especially in the middle there of that Panthers line, Chandler Zavala and company, the rookie, where Micah could exploit it.
The center.
Yep.
Yeah. The Cowboys have done a really nice job. In the last several weeks, they've played centers that don't handle power very well. And Dan Quinn's figured out that the easiest way to get Micah to the quarterback is have him cover the guards and then make them have to one-on-one block, and then put Micah Parsons on a center that has to snap and then adjust to him. But they've done a really nice job with him. Last week you saw a sack. They were able to. I believe it was Lawrence got the sack from rushing that stunt. Yeah, the middles that when they're just one-on-one with these centers, they're doing a great job of taking advantage of some of these centers that just can't one-on-one pass block.
Official postgame show of your Cowboys brought to you by Pepsi, made for Cowboys watching. You did mention Tony Pollard, and there was a couple of runs last week that stood out that we got to watch there in the press box. And I was like, man, that looked like TP's best run. And I don't think there's a position maybe in the city of Dallas that we love more than the backup running back. It happened last year.
I think any backup position, to be honest with you. Yeah,
no, that's a good point. But the running back for sure. This week it was, all right, we got to get Rico Dowdle more involved. Today, Tony Pollard, 12 carries, 61 yards, 5.1 a touch. Did have that 22-yard touchdown run as well, and that was he showed that quickness, hit the hole hard there, the toughness to finish as well. Tony Pollard, CeeDee Lamb said it this week as well. We need to get him going. Right. And, the stat line, it doesn't wow you. It's not like it was a 100-yard day for Tony Pollard, but he certainly looked the best he has all year. And you mentioned Brian Burns. They did play an elite pass rusher. Burns, his first game back from injury. I think Pollard and I think Terrence Steele had their best games today.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing with the offensive line. It's hard on the TV copy. And, even there's times when we're in the stadium like we'll be on Thursday, for the Commanders game, you're trying to kind of take all that in of, like, oh, that looked like that opened up well, or, was that a good combo block there? And you could always kind of pick that up, the next day on that. But I'll have to say, like, I was worried about Burns because I kind of felt like that Burns could potentially be what we dealt with Hassan Reddick there in Philadelphia. That type of guy that, I think Reddick plays the run better than Burns does when it comes to it. But as a pass rusher, he could be difficult to deal with.
Another outstanding performance from Daron Bland. I mean, my goodness gracious. CeeDee Lamb, I saw this nugget courtesy of ESPN, only Cowboys player with more touchdowns this season than Daron Bland. The last two players across the NFL to have at least 11 interceptions in their first 27 career games, it's Daron Bland and it's Trayvon Diggs. I mean, the amount of statistics that are coming out with already 6 interceptions, 4 pick sixes this year. That's already tied an NFL record, and you've still got 7 games left to play. I mean, this young man's been absolutely fantastic. What stands out to you about the way he plays?
Well, the thing about him, the football intelligence is super high with him. He reads the routes really well. We saw last week the interception that he was able to make when they tried to run Jalen Hyatt through the middle of the field, and he basically said, no, my guy's going away. He's not a factor. I've got to now he goes and plays with depth and then is able to get the interception, because that could have been a huge play in that Giants game. I know Dallas was in control, but you talk about football intelligence, the ability to read routes, the ability to finish. I think that's the most impressive thing about him is it doesn't matter whether it's high point ball or invert hands in order to catch a pass and then have the ability to roll and then get up and then take off running and get himself in the right direction to finish off that. But he's super smart. He's super tough. He'll tackle. He'll high point balls. He'll low point balls. He'll do whatever he has to do to make plays. He knows how to play in position, and he's always going to be around the football. And that's what makes him this elite type player that we're seeing right now for the Cowboys.
Dak Prescott today, 189 yards, 2 touchdowns, was 25 of 38. Certainly spread the ball around a lot. CD led the team in targets again with 9, had 6 catches for 38 yards and a touchdown. But you had 5 targets for Ferguson, 5 for Gallup, 5 for Pollard, 5 for Tolbert. Overall, what did you think of the passing game today?
Yeah, the protection was where it starts, but Dak's done a really nice job of finding these guys that are open. There were some contested throws that he had to make. A couple of times there, that give Carolina some credit, especially Hill. Gosh, he made a couple of really, really nice plays. But, it's not going to be easy. There's going to be, they've been really fortunate the last couple of weeks. They've had a lot more open routes. I thought as much zone coverage as the Panthers were going to play in this game, that maybe that Dak was just going to just eat them alive. I felt overall, though, when you look at the game, the yards weren't there. The 25 receptions, or the 25 completions, I think tells you a lot. And more importantly, no interceptions, no turnovers. Dak, they didn't get close enough from the sack fumbles or anything like that. He did a good job of manipulating the pocket when he needed to. But again, he continues to do a great job of protecting the football and then putting the ball in the playmaker's hands when needed be.
He sure does. And, we're getting text 877-881-1053. Certainly, Pollard coming off the injury from the 5-3-0. It takes time to be 100% after an injury like that.
Let's be honest. There's a lot of folks out there, I know, that are texting in. They're saying it takes time, this, that, and the other. We were all not very patient with Tony Pollard.
Not at all.
We were all ready to move on. Everybody was trying to look for answers to this Cowboys running game. In the last couple of weeks, you've had teams that you've played that just aren't very good run defense teams. Carolina, but that's no excuse. You still have to block these guys, and you still have to find the hole. Pollard did a much better job of that. But let's be real honest with ourselves. We were all looking for answers of what this running game needed to do to be different, and we were all willing to throw Rico Dowdle in there right off the jump.
Sure.
I know myself, I ask questions of, does this need to be more than just a 50-50 split?
Yeah.
And, if you want to, give Mike McCarthy and those guys credit for what they've done right now, sticking with Pollard like they have and hoping the running game comes together, because I know there was a lot of us out there that were wanting to see more of Rico Dowdle in these games.
I mean, certainly eye test wise, Rico looked like he was the better back for the majority of the season. You always talk about to and through the hole.
Right.
And I think today you saw that quickness, the vision from Tony Pollard that we'd been waiting to see. And maybe now he's starting to build that confidence. And the injury he's turning the corner from that a little bit. I mean, we know Michael Gallup, it took him over a year plus to get over an injury that was devastating. And for Tony Pollard, hopefully this was a confidence builder. And moving forward, you're right, you got to take advantage of some poor running teams. They've done that the last 2 weeks with the Giants and the Panthers.
Yeah.
The schedule will get a little bit tougher, especially in December. But this is good. I mean, this is what you need to do against poor run defenses.
You do. You absolutely need to figure out ways to get both Pollard and Dowdle going in these games. You're going to have to find a way, as well as Dak is playing, throwing the football and protecting the football. That's something you can lean on. You can have that as hang your hat, like I always like to say, on that type of thing. But man, running the football would really, 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 the balance that they could find. And I know it's very cliche to say, but man, when you have balance on your offense, it makes your life for your quarterback so much easier, and so much easier for your play caller.
Got a text in from the 469. I know it's a win, but it feels like Carolina gave them the win rather than the Cowboys dominated.
I tell you what, and if you want to feel that way, feel free. But me personally, I know how hard these games are. I know how hard these games are to, everything about going on the road. And yeah, Carolina, undisciplined team. They're 1-9 now. You took advantage of a team that's undisciplined. You didn't have major penalties. You didn't. I take that back. You had the Sam Williams one,
which that
Sam
situation
Williams,
of the game we could have looked back on and circled and said, "Holy moly, that was bad."
Sam Williams is really a good special teams player. Once again, he plays as a flyer, a gunner, all those things. He is just super aggressive in the way he plays, and we've seen him be close to blocking punts and things like that. Unfortunately, though, he ran into the leg of Heckard, and it sustained a drive. But the other penalties, the ones, the unnecessary roughness penalties, that's poor football on Carolina's part. And if as a Cowboys, you did a great job of taking advantage of when they committed those penalties. You took advantage of it.
That's perfectly said.
Yeah.
8 penalties, 90 yards. That's why the Carolina Panthers are 1-9. They're an undisciplined football team. They've got a poor offensive line. But the point is, when the Cowboys are given that opportunity right before the end of the half, they were able to finish in the end zone. Dak Prescott finds CeeDee Lamb. You had 3 penalties that sustained the drive, but it wasn't just, all right, let's settle for a field goal. You punch it in for 6. And that's what the Cowboys needed to do today. And I get it. Right? I mean, it's 33-10. You beat the Giants last week. You beat the Panthers today. You got a little bit of a cushy schedule here moving forward. But to your point, it's hard to win in the National Football League. The Commanders just lost to the Giants, and we thought the Giants were a JV football team, and the Commanders coming into today were in the hunt graphic, still trying to compete for a playoff spot in the NFC. It ain't easy. The Lions had to come from behind to beat the Bears at home.
Yeah. We're not making excuses for anybody, but it is when you get to week 11, week 12, you just keep stacking them up, and you find a way to position yourself to either win the division or get the best seed you can in order to get your best playoff positioning. And so never apologize. Yeah, the Carolina Panthers an undisciplined football team, just like you said, they are. And they helped you along the way, and you know what? You took advantage of that. So never apologize for that.
The big news that came out before the game, Jimmy Johnson is going into the Ring of Honor December 30th.
Yeah. Yep.
A home game against those Detroit Lions. As Jerry Jones announced that, we'll have audio from that announcement coming up later. Of course, we'll have Brad Sham, Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott. We want to hear from you. 877-881-1053. That's 877-881-1053. 1053. You can text in. You can call as well here on the official postgame show, your Dallas Cowboys. I do want to bring up, as we mentioned, that Commanders-Giants game. Several people that do listen locally on the flagship 1053 The Fan to our show, which you can hear 2 to 7 weekdays, the G-Bag Nation. We do Survivor picks every Friday for those that don't know. And if you don't, if the team that you pick loses, you then have to do a bet payoff. You went on the record. You picked the Commanders to beat the Giants after what we saw Tommy DeVito leading a JV-looking squad. And with the Giants beating the Commanders, you've now got to do a double bet payoff.
I do. I made the bold statement that if the Commanders lost the game, I would do a double bet payoff. So some type of awful thing I'm going to have to do maybe after the holidays. We'll see when we get our broadcast.
Enjoy the week of Thanksgiving and then stress about that.
And then, some crazy thing I will have to be a part of. But we'll get that all squared up after the holidays.
We'll have plenty of time to break this down as we're with you until 6 o'clock. But how tough now is this turnaround? I mean, you were with the Cowboys, you were with the Packers when they came and played the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. You go from the Sunday road game back home, and now you're playing Thursday for Thanksgiving.
Well, it made it a lot easier for you. It looked like to me that we'll see what the injury report. We didn't see a whole heck of a lot after. I mean, there were some Carolina Panther guys that were on the field that were injured. We'll see how the injury report. But the thing that was really the most impressive to me was that you had the game in control in the fourth, and you were able to rest some guys at the end of the game. So even those few plays, even if it's 10, 12, 15 plays that you don't have to play in a game, that's stuff that's just less taxing on you right there. So there's not going to be any practice this week. It's all going to be walkthroughs, and usually you have probably played the Commanders by now. But so now it's kind of in your mind, it's fresh. They're gonna watch this game on the way home from Charlotte, and then boom, and immediately the coaches might, even with the way the game they'll get home at 8:00 tonight. The coaches might go straight to the Star and start to work on. They'll get the film of the Commanders game, and then they'll have what game plans they need to do. So they've already got a lot of things broken down, but they'll put the Carolina game to bed, and then immediately get back to the Star after they get home tonight and start working on the Commanders.
Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus. 33-10. Cowboys improved to 7-3. Your calls, your texts, plus we'll hear from Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott, and the voice of your Cowboys, Brad Sham. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Experience the most electrifying event of the holiday season.
too good against it. And C.D. Lamb is on the board. 5-yard reception.
Coming into today, Dak Prescott was ranked as the best passer when under pressure in the entire NFL. Brad Sham there with the call, and he's right. Don't blitz him. It's not a good idea. C.D. Lamb, 6 catches, 38 yards, and a touchdown. He surpassed 1,000 receiving yards this season, becoming the second fastest Cowboy to reach the 1,000-yard mark in a season in 10 games. Michael Irvin was originally the fastest as he reached 1,000 yards in 9 games in 1995. So second fastest is CD. Fastest would be Michael Irvin. Missed it by just 1 game there for CD. But his outstanding season continues. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus here on the official postgame show of your Dallas Cowboys. We'll hear from Coach McCarthy in just a moment, but I do want to get to the phones. Brought to you by WinStar, home to over 8,500 of your favorite electronic games, more than 1,000 table game seats and 1,400 luxury hotel rooms. It's always a good time at a WinStar World Casino and Resort, the casino of the Dallas Cowboys. Let's start with our buddy Big Jim in Round Rock. Big Jim, how you doing, sir?
Well, Chick Broaddus, it's a good win. I want to say, first of all, very pleased that Jerry Jones decided to put Jimmy in the Ring of Honor. That was a really nice way to start the day. Secondly, happy to see a little bit more running game going, and it was good to see Micah Parsons get back out there and do some stuff and wreck the game. Broaddus, got a question for you. I know early in the season you kind of speculated whether Mike McCarthy would be calling plays at this point in the season. I know the previous years, it seemed like we'd start off real hot on the offense, and then everybody seemed like they'd get Kellen figured out. They'd throw that umbrella coverage out there or something. I remember that Denver game 2 years ago. Boy, that was a horrible game. I just kind of want to know what kind of grade you put on the play caller. It seems like he's kind of getting into a rhythm. He's kind of figured out his players, and I tell you, I think they got 105.3 the Fan or the Odyssey app on over there, because everything y'all talk about during the week about getting people hot, getting people going, looking at different things, it seems like they've got a little bit of an answer for it. So appreciate all. Brian, you do a good job on that scouting every week. Listen, all you people out there, if y'all not listening, I know not all of you going to be in Texas, so you're going to have to listen on the Odyssey app. Or go to YouTube. You got to listen to Broaddus break down this film. There ain't nobody better out there, and you ain't going to get it from anybody else. So listen to Broaddus. He's good.
Thank you, Big Jim.
What's the grade? And, boy, I love you. And, Wolchuk, I might have to send you a housewarming gift up there to the station.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. Brian, what do you think? Grade for McCarthy?
I think, when you look at Mike, there was I thought before before the San Francisco, probably somewhere between a C- and a D, really. There just was it appeared to me that they just weren't as open to the ideas. Maybe they were so locked in on not doing anything but trying to protect Dak, and that's the unfortunate thing. I always say this about Dak: bloody, muddy Dak. Even I noticed he had blood in his elbow like after the first series of the game, and I'm like, okay, he'll be fine in this game. He'll fill the game and he'll be good. But yeah, I think you have to give Mike a lot of credit. And, the offensive, I worried though about the offensive line, and I still have some concerns. I absolutely have some concerns about the line. And we saw in Philadelphia, but a chance to win that game. The thing with Mike, though, is I think him and Brian Schottenheimer have kind of figured some things out. I think Brian is kind of in his ear about, he's at one end of the bench and he's got the play sheet and he's saying, hey, think about this one. How about this one? How about this one? You could kind of tell that there's a little bit of some influence that maybe that Brian Schottenheimer's in his ear, reminding him about stuff on his play card that he needs to get to. I thought they were a little too cute today. I mentioned that with some of the Wildcat stuff and some of the things that they do. I don't always like shotgun down on the goal line, but I will say that you have to give Mike McCarthy a lot of credit. I think I went from like a C or a C- D to right now I'm like a solid B, maybe B+.
I think a solid B plus is fair right now.
And they need to get the running game going, and if they can find a way, if Mike could get a little bit more, and they did some pin and pull today, which is my favorite scheme.
That pin and pull with Pollard was and Terrence Steele goes out there and eliminates 2 guys.
Absolutely. See, that to me a little bit more creative running. Or maybe given some opportunity, maybe that thing gets to an A, But right now, I'm kind of in that mode of where I'm thinking it's like a B, maybe on its way to a B plus if they can kind of work on some of the other things that in that running game.
Yeah, and you're 100% right with the offensive line. I mean, I think there was a play today. You saw Derek Brown go ahead and split Broaddus and Barton, and that will continue to be an issue. You know, Broaddus against some of the bigger, stronger defensive tackles we saw last week with Dexter Lawrence, as you pointed out in the pregame show as well. We do have some texts like the 214. You can throw the Wildcat play out of the playbook, though. You know, maybe that. I know you're saying, hey, I hate cute football. That one might have been a little bit too cute.
No, I don't. This time of year, I'm not interested in cute football. I'm interested in, you're a team that struggles at times to run the ball. And I'd like to see a little bit. I mentioned the pin and pull stuff, but Wildcat, things like that. If you're going to do that, just line up, and hand the ball off and do what you need to do. I just think that's something that maybe they thought they could be. It's like they kind of said, let's practice some plays today against Carolina and see how it looks. Yeah. Well, whatever you do, just don't think about those plays going forward. They need a little bit more of that where they can come off the ball, get into their blocks, let the backs read the holes where the cuts need to be, and then work it that way instead of trying to put Dak wide and then bring him. They were trying to set plays up is what they were trying to do. They run Wildcat and then they run a reverse off it, and they lose yards. It just don't need those plays. Don't need those negative plays unnecessarily.
Cowboys have now won 7 of their first 10 games the last 3 years. That's the first time they've done so since 92 to 95, their Super Bowl runs, which is apropos considering you have Jimmy Johnson going into the Ring of Honor, which Jerry Jones announced before the game today as well. 877-881-1053, the number to call, the number to text. Here's Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus. Let's go to our guy Scott in Jersey. Scott, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Great game today, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we've had a couple of fun games in a row, right? Now the season starts, as Nate from Frisco would say, the season starts Thursday, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the next 3 home games we need to win. Do we have a possibility of winning the next 3 home games solid, as well as we've been playing this week? Now, Dak didn't play great. That's okay. We don't need Dak. But the next 3 weeks are very important games for us. We have a lot of good opponents, especially even Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which Washington is a division game.
Sure.
It's not going to be easy, right?
No.
So what are we capable of winning the next 3 games and catching up with the Eagles, or I should say the green team, which is what we call them here in Jersey? The green team, do we have a chance of catching up with the green team with a couple of solid wins? We've played well the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
The teams that we need to beat, we beat, right?
Sure.
No doubt. And Washington's a team that we should beat, right?
Yeah.
It's a division game. It's not going to be easy. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not easy.
No, Washington always plays the Cowboys tough. I appreciate the call, Scott. So for people that aren't familiar or know the schedule off the top of your head, Washington on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Seattle the Thursday night afterwards.
Right.
And then Philadelphia on December 10th to start off the December slate. 3 straight games at AT&T Stadium. How do you think the Cowboys' chances are in that 3-game gauntlet?
Well, I tell you what, it will be different. I think I heard him right. Tell me if I'm wrong. Did he say they don't need Dak? Did he say that?
He did, yeah.
And I that's I think with
maybe he meant just today.
Just today. Okay. Well, then I was
because you're going to need Dak to beat
you're
teams.
You're absolutely going to.
You don't have a chance to beat Philly without Dak playing the way he did in Philly a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I think that to me this team they did a really nice job. I think Greg Olson said something really, really what got my attention today is we always talk about the road games and and road game problems and stuff like that. How you solve road game problems is going to win on the road.
Yeah.
And they did that today. They've shown they're an outstanding team at home. The crowd gets into it completely. The quarterback seems to play some of his best football at home. Call it the indoors, call it the turf, call it whatever you want. The defense turns people over. They get a lot of pressure. You're going to have to deal with, I think the Detroit Lions are the same team as the San Francisco 49ers when it comes to the physicality that you're going to have to deal with.
And the way they run the football.
And the way they run the football.
Just the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
They're a very, very good team up front. But, I mean, to Scott's point there, Washington does seem to play the Cowboys very, very well.
Right.
And we were just talking before we came back on air during the break there. The Cowboys' run defense is still something they've played better, certainly. But today,
they were not as good as they needed to be.
They weren't.
No.
And, you got Brian Robinson, who's sneaky good. You still got Antonio Gibson there with Washington. If you're the Commanders and you watch this Carolina tape, outside of maybe trying to pick on, a Jordan Lewis or see if you can get your safeties isolated, why wouldn't you just keep running the ball?
You know what? And the thing with Sam Howell, I don't know if he's still leading the league in passing yards or anything like that. They've got some really, really good skill guys. But if I'm the Commanders, and that's a time for another day, we start to talk about the breakdown for that. I really don't want to throw the football, because to me, the one thing that Dallas has proven that they can do, they can turn you over and they can sack you. If you want to expose your quarterback and your offensive line to that, then keep throwing the ball. I think that's the mistake that Frank Reich made today, was, trying to throw the football there in the second half a little bit. He just kept running the football and trying to keep this thing close. And maybe they could somehow steal a game. But these home games will be difficult just because of the offenses you're playing.
Out of those three, are you looking at the Eagles as the toughest one, or could it be maybe even Seattle? Seattle's got the best secondary of the three.
Yeah, I feel like that. I feel like you had the Eagles beat.
I just think the Cowboys match up well with the Eagles.
I do. I think they're built to play against the Eagles. The protection is going to be key in this game. The big unknown to me, like I say, the really big unknown will be that the Seattle thing.
Mm-hmm.
What team shows up for Seattle?
Yeah, what version of Geno Smith do you get?
Exactly.
Because they've got three legitimate receivers that can cause problems, and a good runner in Kenneth Walker.
They do. Absolutely.
So that's a game.
They can be a very physical team.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's not. I mean, all three are brutal. Do the Cowboys have a chance to win all three? And they're so good at home. They certainly do.
Yeah, sure.
But the way we've seen the Cowboys play, could they lose all three? Unfortunately, yeah. They might. I don't think that they will. I think that they win at least 2 out of those 3 games. 877-881-1053, the number to call, the number to text. Let's sneak in AJ in San Diego on line 3. AJ, you're on the official postgame show of the Dallas Cowboys.
Hey, happy Sunday, guys. Nice to be done early, I'm sure, for you.
Yes, sir.
Great game today. I'm not gonna sit here and say that it was the best offensive performance, but it's good to win these kinds of games on the road, especially on grass. And one of the things I noticed was that it seemed like every time that the receivers recovered, and it seemed like Carolina made a pretty conscientious effort to not let CeeDee Lamb run for 300 yards. It seemed like the tight ends really got involved and played well. Really liked the pass up the seam to Schoonmaker. Really liked the third down call at the end of the third quarter going into the fourth to Jake Ferguson. Just wanted to kind of get your guys' opinion on how the tight ends played. And it seemed like the offensive line also leaned on the tight ends for some chip blocks and things of that nature. I'll hang up and listen to you guys. Thanks.
Thank you, AJ.
Yeah, by the way, it's not a grass field; it's a turf field there. And I know some people think they played on grass. For a long time.
Several people did think that it was grass. But I think they changed it recently.
In 2021, I think is when they changed it. But yeah, I the offensive line, the protection wise, I thought was solid tonight. I mean, obviously you don't give up any sacks, and that's what I worried about. I said it with Brian Burns. I think that was a guy that could have caused some problems for you, especially with Steele. But, Steele was able to hold his own right there. The tight ends, I'll be interested, as I always am, how do you handle these guys that are the big-time pass rushers? Did we see some chips? Did we see there was one time there where I know that Pollard had a pickup, and then Dak tried to kind of throw the ball back to him, things kind of broke down for him. But, the one thing Pollard's been able to do is pick up blitzes. I think he's really, really good at that. But the tight ends overall today, McEwen had a couple of holding calls,
He did
right?
have a couple of holding calls. He sure did.
So that part of it was, the negative part of that was, was you don't want the holding calls from the tight ends. But, Ferguson, we'll see with Hendershot. I don't know if a short week that you get Hendershot back, because to me, I would like to see Hendershot playing over McEwen.
Yes. I think he's the better player.
Much better player. And so I kind of feel like that would even help the group even more.
877-881-1053. That opens up a couple of lines. If you want to join in there, we'll continue to take your calls, your text. We'll also hear from Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott, and the voice of your Cowboys, Brad Sham. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
RJ Shop here, Bucker President. That time, Parsons was second or maybe third. Lawrence got there first, and then Fowler. And Lawrence, I believe, will get credit for the third sack.
DeMarcus Lawrence now has 58.5 career sacks as he passes Ed Too Tall Jones for the fifth most in franchise history of the Dallas Cowboys. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout, Bryan Broaddus, 33-10. Cowboys beat the Panthers. The official postgame show brought to you by the National Medal of Honor Museum. Join the mission at mohmuseum.org and AT&T, the official 5G innovation partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We're joined now by the voice of your Cowboys, Brad Sham from Carolina. And Brad, your early observations and thoughts after this 33-10 victory.
You know, that Lawrence passing Ed Jones, that's impressive to me.
It is.
Considering Ed played like 17 years, and except for the 1 year he went boxing, he never missed a snap. So that is pretty impressive. I mean, I thought that, Zach, I thought they did just exactly what they were supposed to do. We thought it would be harder than it was against the Giants. I'm not sure that anyone expected them to run the ball so well. But when things got to a certain point, they were able to turn them aside. And then, you know, sometimes you get a little help from the other team, which they did. And I thought the most impressive possession was the answer to their long one in the third quarter. They ate up like 9 minutes, and the Cowboys came right back and scored and said, no, that was good. That was good for you. Hooray for you. This is our game. And it was exactly the kind of performance that I think a good team needed to put on against that particular opponent.
You know, circling back to DeMarcus Lawrence and his game, and certainly Micah was fantastic with 3 sacks as well. But it's amazing the amount of hate that DeMarcus Lawrence gets from the fan base at times. I mean, I was telling Bryan during the game, I think DeMarcus Lawrence.
Hate?
Yeah, I mean, because of the sack numbers. He got paid, and the sack numbers decreased. So there's fans that, for whatever reason, they just don't want to like DeMarcus Lawrence. It shocks me. I think he could be the most underrated Cowboy of the last decade.
Well, I have to watch myself because if I say what I really think, then I will get in trouble for denigrating the listeners. But DeMarcus Lawrence, you are correct in my opinion. And he is one of the best run players in the league. He had 1 or 2 really outstanding years in quarterback sacks. That's what got him paid. But his value is both as an emotional locker room leader and as a guy who plays the complete game. He can still rush the passer, but, man, he's such a good run player, and I think he's one of their most important cogs. And the fact that fans like to hate on him just shows me what the fans know.
Brad, it appeared when I was listening to your calls today with Tony Pollard with the ball, it sounded like you were clicking off the yards faster today.
Yeah.
Was that the case with Tony Pollard today?
Yeah, I think it was, Bryan. We talked about it on this show last week that he showed a little more pop against the Giants, a little more spark, a little more acceleration. And I thought that was the case again today. That 21-yard touchdown run was kind of what we've seen from him the last few years. So for whatever reason, it's taken him a half season to kind of round himself back to close to where he wanted to be. I'm not sure he's 100% there yet, but yeah, I think you're exactly right. He was moving better, very strong, very powerful runner. The way he's improved in pass protection.
Oh, yes.
Is almost breathtaking.
Yep.
And it's really important in the way this offense plays. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think he's moving quicker, a little more explosive. I'm looking forward to the second half of the year.
What was your assessment of overall we mentioned Pollard, but Dak and the way the offense performed?
You have to remember the difference in the way they play. And I think we talked about it, Bryan, on the pregame, what McCarthy said about this is a zone team.
Yeah.
When you get a lot of zone teams, then you are not going to get some of those one-on-one matchups that leave you with a clear opening that certainly he had last week. And then, the other guy's on scholarship too, right? I mean, Troy Hill's been a pretty good player for not great, but he's been a pretty good player, and he had 3 really major league knockdowns today on what otherwise would have been big completions. I didn't see the ball being put into a bad position. I think the nature of the fans don't want to hear it. Fans think if you've got the ball, you ought to be able to go do anything you want to do if you're really good. It's not how football works. The other team and their approach and what you need to do to defeat them, that comes into play. And I thought it came into play today. And when Dak had to make some big-time throws, he made them, and his receivers made some big-time catches. Very encouraged by Schoonover making that first catch. Schoonmaker, I knew I was going to do that. Schoonmaker making that first catch because that guy's growing. He's getting better. And in a year, people are going to be loving Luke Schoonmaker. And he's continued to work. He blocks well. And I think it was a real good portend for things to come for his confidence, both that Dak threw that first one and that he caught it. And so, I mean, I think, everybody chipped in. What did he have? Did he have 10 or 11 different guys catch passes?
Yes.
I mean, it was ridiculous. So, I think they did what they had to do.
Brad, speaking of doing what they had to do, it appears, and this is just TV copy eyes watching the game, it appears that another solid game for Terrence Steele. Was worried about Brian Burns in this game a little bit, maybe exposing Steele to some things, some of those sins that we've seen in the past from him. But it appeared that, from my vantage point, that Terrence Steele was pretty solid today.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I noticed the same thing. And I actually think that Steele last week picked up, considering the game that he had the week before.
Right.
I thought that he came back, and as we discussed last week, the Giants have some pretty good pass rushers too.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that he had a really solid game against them. But I know on the first couple of possessions, there were blocks and pass protection from Steele that were so evident that I called them out. I mean, when I can see that happening while I'm watching the play develop, then that's a really outstanding block. So I think that he had a bad game, but I think he is showing his resolve, and I think that's a big plus going forward.
No question. And Daron Bland, another pick six. He's now got 4 on the year, most by any player in his first 2 seasons in NFL history. You've gotten to call the careers of a lot of really, really talented Cowboys corners. What stands out to you about Daron Bland?
Well, first, like Everson Walls, he's just got a knack for where the ball is, like Diggs. But this penchant for touchdowns is, clearly, since he's the 4th guy in the history of the league to return 4 he's either the 4th or the 5th to return 4 in a season. And I was just talking to him in the locker room. All the reporters were around him, and he knew exactly where he stood in that race, and he knows that the next one he gets will make him the all-time record holder, and he's interested in doing it. He's going to be looking for it. He's just the most astounding thing about him, Zach, I think, is that they got him in the 5th round.
It's amazing.
And nobody knew anything about him. He played impressively well as a rookie. And now what, as he himself said, I only got about 3 targets. So when I saw that ball, I had to kind of do something with it. And he is an amazing story. He's the kind of guy, if they can get to a Super Bowl, he is the kind of guy that people all over the country are going to write essays about because he's so humble and so quiet, and he was so overlooked, and he's an NFL record holder. And he's only getting better. He's still learning how to play the
absolutely,
position.
yeah.
Crying out loud.
Sure,
it's amazing.
He doesn't really know what he's doing yet.
Any final thoughts before we let you out of here, Brad?
I think it's a good sign that they had to, McCarthy keeps talking about these trimesters.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they finish, I don't know if they finish after Washington or Philly, and sooner or later we're going to get to the end of the third trimester and hope the baby's born healthy. But I just thought this 4-game swing after they lost to Philly, you had to keep everything in perspective. These were winnable games. Next Thursday will be harder than today, and the Thursday after that will be harder than that. And if they're able to win those games, and Philadelphia were to lose twice in their next 3 with a much more difficult schedule, then you've got bonkers on December 10th. Then you got 2 teams 9-3. This one would be feeling really, with justification, pretty good about itself in a much different way than those 2 lopsided blowouts showed you at the beginning of the year. So their mission, as far as I was concerned, Zach, was go win these 4 games. One at a time, just do what you have to do. And they did that last week, and they did that this week, and now they will have to go. I always like the way they have to convince themselves that tomorrow is both Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. And it's really hard on the short week, and then Thursday should be very entertaining. If they can keep it going, then they got a chance to do something. So I think they're kind of on track.
Thank you, Brad. Safe travels, and we'll catch up beyond Thanksgiving.
All right, fellas. Very good. See you Thursday.
See you Thursday. There he goes, the voice of your Cowboys, the great Brad Sham, with us here in the official postgame show of your Dallas Cowboys. Let's go ahead and pause 10 seconds to allow stations to identify themselves across the Dallas Cowboys radio network.
Your turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan.
Hello, baby.
KRLD FM and HD1, Dallas Fort Worth.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus here with you. 877-881-1053, the number to call, the number to text. When we come back, we will hear from our Cowboys insider Bobby Belt. We've also got Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott, and more from you. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Fly to Philly, take off to Tampa, depart for Denver, following your team on the road.
for a first down.
Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus, the official postgame show of your Dallas Cowboys, brought to you by Ford, your Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas. Time now to welcome in our Cowboys insider Bobby Belt. After a 33-10 Cowboys road win over the Panthers, as they improved to 7-3 on the year, 3-3 away from the friendly confines of AT&T Stadium. Bobby, how are you? What'd you think of this 23-point victory for the Cowboys?
Oh, I'm great, gentlemen. It's funny. I know Bryan and I talked about this week on Love of the Star, and I had tweeted it out during the game that Carolina, it doesn't feel like it's just has big glaring holes when you watch them play. It's not like they've got, when you were going to play Arizona, you felt like, okay, their secondary is really awful or whatever else. This is it's a team that all around is just not very good. They're not horrendous, but it just feels like they're not good, and it totals up to being a really bad football team, and I think you saw a lot of that today. Dallas is just a better football team. It didn't seem like, they totally dominated them in any aspect other than, they generated a lot of pressure on that Carolina offensive line. But for the most part, I think this is just a symptom of Dallas is a better football team than Carolina, and so when both teams played their game, you get the result that you get, which is not a overly dominant or overly impressive win. Certainly not as big of a win as it feels like it looks like on the scoreboard, 23 points, but you'll absolutely take it. They took care of business, and that's all you can ask for.
Bobby, I'm going to let you be reckless on our post-game show tonight.
How reckless? Are you going to let me call Dak Prescott MVP? Or
no, I'm not going to let you.
A year?
You could do that on your own show, but I will say that I will ask you this: you tweeted out that you felt like that something was wrong with CeeDee Lamb. Mm-hmm. Do you think there was something wrong with him in this game, or was it just that Carolina was not going to let him catch the football much tonight?
I don't know, and we'll have to. Yeah, I'm gonna. We'll have to ask about it at the start of this week. I'm curious to hear if, and at this time of year, they say all guys are dealing with something. Everybody's banged up. This is the kind of way it is. But it's just, there were a few points where he stopped. He looked slow. He looked like he was, a little hobbled. Even when he scored the touchdown.
He kicked the ball, right? Afterwards, after he scored, it's like
he just kind of dropped it, kicked it. Yeah, and he didn't look overly excited. I saw some people trying to speculate on, social media that, he's been a little mopey because he's not getting the same work.
Okay.
It's like, no, this looks to me, I think, more like he looked like he was just maybe aching a little bit today. Now, maybe it could be nothing. It could just be little bumps and bruises. But when they had the late hit on Turpin on that catch that Lamb made, if you watch, he had initially slipped, and then when he got up, he was just very slow to get up, and he kind of paced in a circle. He caught the touchdown a few plays later. So I don't know. I'm going to have to go back and do a little, CSI forensic video investigating Bryan and see if maybe something was wrapped up in the second half that wasn't wrapped up in the first or something like that. But it definitely looked like he was just maybe a little bruised today. Probably nothing serious. He played through the whole game, but it looked like he was, didn't look to me anyway like he was completely 100%.
Yeah, I feel the exact same play you mentioned. I was wondering, oh my gosh, is CD okay? I thought maybe it was an ankle because he looked like he was a little bit ginger there. I don't think it was anything frustration-wise. You can usually tell by CD's body language if there's something that's off. So I think you're spot on with that. Bryan and I have also been breaking it down. I thought today, and of course we'll get more information. I know people roll their eyes when we say we got to go back and look at the film. But I thought just from watching the game on the TV, Terrence Steele and Tony Pollard had their best games today.
Yeah, I think that, early on, I actually, as weird as it's been, we've all been clamoring for more of the passing game throughout the season. Today was a day I felt like you probably could have taken advantage of the run game more in the first half than they did. It felt like there were some opportunities there. I think Steele played better. I think Pollard was better. He had that really tough run on the touchdown. That was really impressive. But, it's funny. I think that the guys that I noticed on the offensive line that I was like, maybe a little bit of a tough day, and again, we'll have to look at the tape to be certain, but man, it felt like Broaddus had some trouble with that, and it felt like Zach Martin was having some issues today. I don't know if you guys felt that way, but it felt like there were a couple different times where Derek Brown was giving him some work. And so I'll have to go back and look at that. I'll be interested to see, but I think Steele absolutely stepped up in a big way, and I think they could have had a lot more success running the ball if they would have, committed to that earlier. You're not going to totally style point of victory, nothing like that. But This is something where Carolina likes to bring a lot of blitz pressure, and they don't typically get home with it. Today, they were having some success early, getting pressure on Dak Prescott. And so when you've got that pressure and you've got them in zone looks and they're trying to keep everything underneath, I think you see what you get from the passing game, which is, a net of 5 yards per attempt. It wasn't an explosive day in the passing game at all. You can tell that Carolina, I think, had looked at things and said, all right, that is not how we're going to get beaten today. We're not going to get beat by the Cowboys doing what they've done to other teams the last few weeks. We're going to make sure that doesn't happen. And credit to Tony Pollard and Terrence Steele and the run game in general for having the success that they did.
Bobby, tell me something that Daron Bland can get better at.
Oh, man. That's tough. I mean, I guess
the double move
know.
stuff.
Yeah, the double move is the only thing that comes to mind.
The double move stuff, is that really
Yeah, he's like, but I mean, I feel like that's just, I don't know that that's a problem with him as much as it's a problem with, that's a second-year corner in general. I think he's playing about as well as you can expect a second-year corner to play. And, man, he is.
I think he's playing better.
Yeah, I think he is too.
Incredibly opportunistic.
Yeah.
And it's just, he is such an impressive player. He is to me anyway, an all-pro. I believe, I don't know how it's been updated since, but I saw Sumer Sports had a note, I think it was 2 weeks ago, that Bland was allowing the fewest yards per route run against in the NFL of any corner. And so he's had a ton of success, even with those double moves in there and getting hit a couple times by those. He's been just incredibly impressive. And I think that he's probably, not only just covered up for the loss of Trayvon Diggs, but he's probably covered up for a little bit of a loss and a step for Stephon Gilmore or some of the trouble that Jordan Lewis has had recently. And so, I mean, I think you can make an argument that obviously Micah Parsons is a big part of what they do on defense. DeMarcus Lawrence, who I know Zach was giving D-Law his flowers at the end of last segment, those guys are obviously big parts of that. But I mean, you can make an argument that Daron Bland's been the defensive MVP for them.
Hey, Bobby, when Carolina was running the ball there, is it a little bit, I mean, I saw Clark show up a little bit. I saw Bell show up a little bit, though. Is that still going to be the problem, though? That maybe the little bit of the lighter linebacker when you start to talk about Bell?
Yeah, I mean,
in the run game.
That's honestly, I know that's something that people around the league discuss, not just with Bell, but just in general, the emphasis on lighter, faster linebackers who can cover, that eventually that's going to become cyclical and teams are going to start taking advantage of that and start really, running the ball at guys like that. And that you'll start seeing tweaks and adjustments across the league when those linebackers become universal everywhere. And so I think that's some of it. Again, I know we hate to say it, but we will have to go back and watch and see, okay, how much did the defensive line do everything that they were supposed to keep those guys clean? How much did the linebackers have their own problems, whatever else? I did notice a couple times it looked like they weren't, on a couple of those bigger runs, it looked like they had lost the edge in a couple instances. And so I'll be interested to see how the defensive ends played, keeping the edge in this game. But, I mean, I think that's a function of just smaller linebackers. Bell's probably, I don't even know that he's 220. Like when you stand next to him in the locker room, he's a light linebacker for sure. And so that's you're going to run into some of that. But just in general, I think they would probably say, and I imagine Dan Quinn will say tomorrow, that they've just got to be more disciplined on their run keys.
Bobby, thank you so much, man. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
I love you all.
Love you more. There he goes, Bobby Bell, your Cowboys insider here on the Postgame Show, brought to you by AT&T, the official 5G innovation partner of the Dallas Cowboys and blockchain. Trust the team at blockchain.com to make buying, selling, and trading crypto easy. Play smarter, not harder with blockchain.com. Your head coach, Mike McCarthy, talking after a 33-10 Cowboys win over the Carolina Panthers. Here's Coach.
Mike, maybe more California news. Just coming off the big win last week and a game on Thursday, just how you felt the team performed and focused on this game to get ready.
I feel like we came here and did what we needed to do. Obviously, it was important to get the 7th win. We won by 3 scores. So I was glad to get some guys some playing time in the fourth quarter. So, so overall, it was a healthy victory for us. And hopefully I haven't been to the training room yet, but it looks like we've come out of the game pretty healthy. So, which is probably the most important part of this trip outside of the victory.
So in the fourth quarter, I mean, that's on your mind. We're turning around in 5 days.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. No, definitely. It's it's something that we talked about coordinators beforehand, which I don't really like to do that, but I mean it's not our first time being on this schedule. It's a challenge. So like I said, I thought this was obviously a win we had to have. It's an NFC win, and but we're obviously glad to be healthy, and then we'll move on to the Washington Commanders.
Clarence Hill, 4-Star Telegram. When did you know about Jimmy going to the Ring of Honor before the game, and what's your thoughts on Jimmy and his coaching career being in the Ring of Honor?
Well, I found out when Jimmy and Jerry showed up in my locker room, so that was cool. But yeah, I tell you, I really enjoyed the time together because I love doing everything in front of cameras all the time. But it was just awesome to see them two together. It was really cool. They finish each other's sentences. So, and I know Jimmy's very touched by it, but I was very very fortunate to have that time with both of them. So, obviously very happy for Coach Johnson.
Did you worry about that taking anything away from the focus of the game, or was that inspirational for your team?
Well, I'll be honest with you. It just, from my perspective, and I think the locker room's perspective, it was such a spur of the moment, because there was, I don't know who was aware of that outside of or in the locker room, let alone outside the locker room. So.
Richard Walker, Associated Press. Daron Bland, you've been an NFL guy a while. 4 pick-six, ties an NFL record. Talk about the accomplishment. Just
a remarkable young player. I think you just watch the way he plays, and it's a great example of the details that he plays with, especially for a young corner. The shallow crossing route kind of drifted upfield a little bit, and he cuts under it and takes a perfect angle and makes a huge play. So I just can't say enough about him. He's done it since the first day. He's played so well last year for us, and he's having an incredible season.
Mike Todd Archer with ESPN. The timing of it too, to become right after you retake control of the game with that long touchdown drive that you guys had, to have him kind of cement it, the timing of that? Yeah,
and they responded. But, I think, the thing in this game, there was a lot of long drives, and there weren't a lot of big momentum swings in the game. So, and that was clearly the biggest one. So, and that's, and that's part of our play style. That's part of our complementary football. That in my view was the biggest play that was made today. And those games changed the course of games, and that definitely put us in the driver's seat.
And Tony's touchdown run, just the finish, the way that he did, what do you think?
Another excellent play. Not only the fact that, the run, but how he did it, and just the inside zone, and we had some moments earlier that were clean. I thought we did a better job. I thought I gave the guys better looks in the second half. So a lot of good to come out of this, and frankly, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time. We'll be watching Washington on the way home. So that's not the. Sorry, I'm not here to go ticky tack with you on stats today. I apologize because my mind's already on to the next one.
There you go, Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy, not going ticky-tack. He is on to Washington, and it is a quick turnaround. It's already there Wednesday.
Yeah, ready to go. That's what you got to do. They're, like I say, they'll land, and they'll all leave the charter site, drive back to the Star, and start work, get ready for the Commanders. I'm sure they've got a lot of stuff already prepped and broken down. I always find it funny, though. Clarence Hill tweeted out that he felt like that the Cowboys disrespected the Panthers by making this announcement about Jimmy in the Ring of Honor, and that maybe that it will affect the team. I'm glad Mike kind of shut him down on that whole idea of that.
No. Well, I mean, look, I think all Cowboy fans were thrilled to hear that announcement. I don't think they were really caring about the Panthers. I don't think the Panthers really care. They're sitting there at 1-8 coming into the game. They're just thinking, all right, the Cowboys are in town. I don't know if you saw the amount of Cowboy fans there, but there was a lot. And, love everybody that covers the team. All right, Tommy DeVito, by the way, today, 246 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and he did lead the Giants to a 31-19 winner of the Commanders. Commanders fall to 4-7. They're also just 1-4 at home this year, not playing well there at FedEx Field.
I heard the hot water was busted at the place, too.
Adam Schefter reporting that the Giants and Commanders locker rooms at FedEx Field have no hot water for showers. A Commanders official said, quote, "We had an equipment failure in the main water heater that provides hot water to the field level locker rooms. We can't resolve the matter without completely shutting off the water to the stadium, which is why it couldn't be repaired in-game. That's FedEx Field for you. At least they weren't having to shower in feces, which that has also been an issue here.
Not a long trip to have to go.
Yeah.
Some of these teams take trains, like take a train from New York to Washington.
All right. Appreciate everybody who's been waiting on hold. We will get to you, I promise. 877-881-1053. Plus, we'll hear from your victorious quarterback, Dak Prescott. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
From retirement.
Cooks, who got a big first down gain of 22 yards.
Brandon Cooks answers a phenomenal game last week with 3 catches, 42 yards, actually leading the team in receiving, had 14 yards a catch on 4 targets, including that 22-yard catch that he had there as the Cowboys knock off the Panthers 33-10, improving to 7-3. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus, 877-881-1053. The number to call, the number to text, that's 877-881-1053. We'll hear from Dak Prescott here in just a moment, but I do want to go back to the phones and hear from you. Brought to you by Blockchain. You don't need a complicated play to bring it into the end zone. That's why you should trust the team at Blockchain.com to make buying, selling, and trading crypto easy. Play smarter, not harder with Blockchain.com. Let's go out to Doug in Palestine. Doug, how you doing, sir? You're on the official postgame show of the Dallas Cowboys.
And the home of Adrian Peterson. Got to throw that
yes,
in,
sir.
Even though, unfortunately, I think he's always wanted to be a Cowboy, but I don't think he's going to quite make it at age 38. But listen, guys, Bryan especially, I really respect what you guys do in your podcasts every day, and especially during the draft, all the draft programs. I became a even bigger fan, if that's possible. 2 quick questions, and then I'll shut up and listen. Bland has done so well. Do you see him staying outside next year when Diggs comes back, or do you see him moving him back in? And if so, what happens to J-Lou? Secondly, along with that, the guys we went out and got, Gilmore, Cooks, that we spent some money on to fill in holes. Do you see any of them sticking around or being let go to let some of the younger guys come up? And do you see any of the veterans that we went out and got sticking around next year to and actually the last thing I wanted to ask real quick was, what do you hear about LVE and his rehabilitation or whatever? Are we going to be able to get him back? No, not this year, but next year. Thank you so much for taking my call, and I'll shut up and listen.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate it. In terms of LVE, Bryan, I think there's doubt about his future. We might have seen the end of Leighton Vander Esch, but who knows?
I think we have. That's very irresponsible of me to say that, but I just feel like from everybody I've talked to there, it seems like there's a lot going on there, and when somebody tells me a lot going on, then I kind of feel like there's some decisions that are going to have to be made. Don't know the contract situation with Gilmore. Is that
Lewis and Gilmore are both up at the end of this year?
I was wondering if there was an option. If the team
I just looked it up. I don't see an option.
Okay, if the team doesn't hold an option, then what's going to happen is you're likely going to have Diggs and Bland, and you're going to have to figure out something with the nickel. I think that you could probably. I would probably pencil Bland in as the nickel to move inside from the outside next year, but they have to find somebody to play on the outside is what I would do. I don't anticipate. To me, we'll see with the money with Gilmore and things like that.
And who knows? They might be able to re-sign Stephon Gilmore. He might like it here and want to come back.
Absolutely. But then again, he might also say, well, maybe I'll go somewhere else and try and get some more money. Maybe if the Cowboys – because the Cowboys are going to be up against it on some things, but like I said, they'll figure it all out. They will, but just to kind of, I just don't think that Gilmore will be back. I think Bland will be your outside guy, and then they need to figure out once they move Bland inside on those nickel downs, who's going to play on the outside.
Then Jordan Lewis, as I mentioned, also a free agent. I don't see Jordan Lewis. I think right now he's your weak link among your corners.
He's not played as well. And today it looked like that he was bending over a little bit on the sidelines. I don't know if he was just adjusting socks or adjusting laces on shoes, but it just appeared to me that maybe he was dealing with some stuff during that game. He might not be completely healthy right now, and so we'll see. But he came back and at times has played very, very well, and other times he has kind of given up some things. And I'd give anything to have Diggs out there playing on the outside and let.
Gosh, your 3 corners would be so good.
Exactly.
So I mean that's when you were talking about maybe an elite caliber defense with that secondary.
Well, they were 2-0, and you talk about the competition. It might not have been the Jets without.
That's still in the Giants. It's totally fair.
Yeah, I'm watching Zach Wilson throw another interception here. So if Aaron Rodgers is playing that game, for the Jets, it might be a different story. But as far as the quarterback play, but man, they were playing elite defense with the first 2 weeks when Diggs was in there, and I think since then now they're 5-3 without him. So, but he's such a good player.
The future is bright when you talk about maybe an All-Pro this year in Daron Bland and a former All-Pro in Trayvon Diggs, and hopefully he comes back and is just as good post-injury. But it's exciting thinking about those two and their future with the Dallas Cowboys. All right, let's go to Lester in Denton. Lester, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine, sir. How y'all doing?
Excellent.
Doing well.
Yes, I want to let y'all know, hey, Dallas played an awesome game. Love the way the offense played to keep Dak upright and clean. Mm-hmm. Only thing I would love to see more of, like you said, we got to get that running game going because the next 4 games, we're going to have some tough ones, and we got to be able to establish that run. We don't want to make nobody make us one-dimensional. But if you keep that run going and then you get it opening up, that you open up for some exotic plays and pass action plays. But like I said, if the offensive line can keep gelling like they're doing, and if that running game we can be intact, I think we'll be in and run.
Well, Pollard looked clearly better than he has really all season, in my opinion, today. I think Carolina will allow you to run the ball a little bit. Him and Dowdle, I felt like that they were going to have a pretty good game. I thought they were going to be a little bit more balanced, overall, but, they did what they had to do to get it done. I do think you're right about the running game. I love to see it, but I'm also buying into the fact that Dak Prescott throwing this ball. If the offensive line can find a way to protect him like they have, the Philadelphia game was a little bit rough, but if you find a way to protect him and, get these receivers, he keeps throwing the ball to 9 or 10 different guys. That's hard to defend if you're a defensive coordinator. So I think you can count on that with Dak Prescott throwing the ball. He's doing a great job of protecting it and not putting it much in harm's way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No question about that.
And they can win. They can win games with Dak Prescott just throwing the football.
Yeah.
I believe they can.
I believe that as well. All right, we'll get back to the phone. Speaking of Dak Prescott, let's hear from your victorious quarterback after a 33-10 victory.
Dak, David Warren, Dallas Morning News. Just coming off the big blowout win last week and knowing you have a game Thursday was just the aspect of handling business and taking care of it the way you needed to in this game.
Yeah, every week is about handling business, coming in, getting the win. Obviously, I understood the challenge in this week. Honestly, not even looking forward to Thanksgiving yet. It was about focusing where we were. If you look on paper, right, a lesser opponent, but we knew we had to come in noon start, something that we don't do too often. So had to get going fast and not take them lightly and keep the focus high and. Got the job done. To say it was clean and to say that we did exactly what we wanted to do, I can't say that. Got to go look at the film, but you'll take the win any way we can get it. It was a good win. Got to heighten the focus a little bit. I know on our side of the ball, whether it be a 12 o'clock game, whether it be the lesser opponent, who knows? But it was communicated. It was communicated throughout the game. Guys answered that challenge and played better and went and got the dub. And when we needed to make plays, they made it a 7-point game, needed to convert third downs, needed to score. We went and did that and answered. Defense made it a bigger lead there. And from there, we're able to, finish it off.
Clarence Hill, 4-Star Telegram. What were they doing to limit the passing game and talk about the importance of getting Pollard in the running game off? Yeah,
they've got a great rush over there. Obviously, interior, Burns on the outside. They've got a great rush. So it wasn't giving me the cleanest look that much time. You've got kind of a clock in your head, and they're doing a good job there. But as I said, guys answered the challenge, clean that up, allow us to start getting some opportunities outside. And we at that point we took advantage, converted third downs, as I said. But it was huge for us to get the run game going there, to obviously get the favorable matchups we want outside, get them in more of run stopping defenses so we could attack where we wanted to.
Side, you see the athletic Dak. Obviously, you guys went down, got a big touchdown to go up 24-10. See Daron then come back on the next drive and do what he did. How impressive has he been, and how much of an asset to the offense is he in that way?
Yeah, he's scoring touchdowns, and at that point, he's a part of the offense when he's getting in the end zone as much as he is. I'm always communicating with the guys, and I had watched these guys much on TV or checked out their offense. I asked, was he going to get an opportunity at one? And he told me he was going to get one. And so just laughing in the locker room post game, he said, "I told you I was going to get one." I said, "I didn't know you were going to score." And his expectations, his standards, he said, that comes with it. And that's just great to hear. That's what he believes in. Ball guy. You put it near him, inaccurate with a throw. Trust me, I've known it from the time that he showed up, just practice against the guy. He's a big-time playmaker, and he's doing a hell of a job, and proud of him, happy for him.
And before the game with Jimmy and Jerry and everything, what was that like for you? Did you guys know at all? Did you have any heads up? And just how was that whole before the game experience?
Yeah, I didn't know the news until Clarence actually just told me walking in. I saw him in the locker room cameras, and it's just another day being a Dallas Cowboy. So for me, obviously, it was cool. Obviously, I met him, but to shake his hand again, him have some kind words to say, him and Jerry both just before the game, was cool.
Hey, Zach, Patrick Wolchuk, DallasCowboys.com. You want to enjoy this game, obviously. How quickly and what's the process as far as enjoying this and flipping the switch to Washington Thursday?
Yeah, being a noon game, we can enjoy for the rest of the day, but come tomorrow morning, it's on to Washington. Obviously on a quick week. Monday's essentially Thursday, right? So, I got to get in, get the film steady, make sure we compact it, get what we got to get done to be prepared for these guys. Division opponent had beat us the last time we played them, focus will be high. Damn sure for my part. I know the rest of the guys, that'll be my job as a leader, is making sure guys understand that. Once again, you're looking on paper, their record, lesser opponent. But we've got to come in, division opponent, be who we are, take care of business on Thanksgiving, then we can enjoy our holidays the right way.
Will you actually start looking at some of it on the plane ride back? Or
No.
Your head a little bit, and then once you get home, it's kind of...
No, I would say it's the factor of needing to clear my head. Just when you're watching film, you want to make sure that you're really into it, and there's enough. I'll watch this game, take some good, take some bad, figure out things we can get better from this game. That's what I'll do on the plane ride home, and probably once again getting home, watching the TV copy as I do, and maybe watch it for a third time. I don't know if coaches plan on watching it with the coaches or not. But yeah, I'll watch this a few times, and then, as I said, tomorrow morning I will have turned the page and start watching these guys, and so that's part of the process.
Your Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott, after a 33-10 victory over the Carolina Panthers. Dak today 189 yards, 2 touchdowns passing. Also did have a couple of nice runs as well, totaling of just 2 runs for 6 yards. But Dak continues to play good football, and as you mentioned it earlier, Bryan, turnover free.
Yeah, that's the thing right now. I felt like that maybe that the coaching staff held Dak back a little bit to start the season. We made a bunch of had a lot of discussions, a lot of shows, a lot was made about Dak and interceptions and turnovers, and he's done a really nice job of protecting the football, finding the receivers, managing the offense, getting them in and out of plays, and then having some success. So, running game, yes, important, absolutely. But with Dak Prescott, I think you could start to continue to hang some more things on him. Put it on his back, put it on his shoulders. He seems like he's more willing to take anything that you want to throw on him and go forward here for the remainder of the season.
877-881-1053, the number to call, the number to text. We will hear Micah Parsons. If you notice, maybe he was a little sick on the sideline. We've got the storyline as to why. Plus, we will hear from you, your texts, your calls, 877-881-1053. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
The big game is here. It's the new Cowboy scratch ticket from the Texas Lottery. Play today for your chance to win up to $100,000 instantly. Or enter for a chance to win Dallas Cowboys VIP experiences like Draft Day War Room packages, season tickets, and much more. Make every day game day with the new Cowboys scratch ticket. Dallas Cowboys Football Club Limited. Visit TexasLottery.com for odds. Must be 18 or older to participate. Play responsibly.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby! The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
Snap Raise is the online fundraising platform for athletic directors and group leaders that has helped raise over $600 million for more than 100,000 programs in the U.S. We created this solution to give group leaders like you everything you need to successfully fundraise online. With Snap Raise, you can collect and manage funds securely, get a custom webpage for your campaign, personalize donor engagement, track participants and incentives, and access support whenever needed. Snap Raise is part of the Snap Mobile family, a proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys. For more information, visit onsnap.com/raise.
The Whataburger Sweet and Spicy Bacon Burger is an all-time favorite. It brings so many flavors together in harmony, you might wonder if it's greater than the sum of its parts. It's got 2 all-beef patties, both of which fantastic. Crispy bacon, love that. Grilled onions, melty cheese. I mean, who would say no? And sweet and spicy pepper sauce. Yes, please. I guess we're kind of partial to every part. The Sweet and Spicy Bacon Burger from Whataburger, just like you like it.
Dallas, the jackpots for Mega Millions, Powerball, and Lotto Texas are big and getting bigger every day. And you can now buy your official Texas lottery tickets right from your phone at jackpot.com, an official partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Just go to jackpot.com, choose your favorite lottery game, pick your lucky numbers, and get your winnings instantly. Plus, right now, get a free lottery ticket with your first play. Don't wait. Go to jackpot.com right now and buy your lottery tickets on your phone. Go to jackpot.com. That's jackpot.com. Paid for by jackpot.com. You must be 18 or older to order a lottery ticket. Please play responsibly. If you or somebody knows a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
This is the Dallas Cowboys Pepsi Postgame Show. Pepsi, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Brought to you by
AT&T, the official partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Pepsi Zero Sugar, made for Cowboys watching. Blockchain.com, make your crypto play today. Jigsaw Dating, proud dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Jackpot.com. The Powerball jackpot continues to grow. Buy your Powerball tickets now on jackpot.com. And by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. It's Miller time.
At the 21, there's a little toss play to Pollard right up the middle of the 10. Puts his head down through a guy at the 5. Bangs to the goal line. Down, one man says down at the 1, the other one says touchdown, and there's a flag back at the 7.
During the run, holding, defense number 99. Penalties declined. Result of the play is a touchdown.
A touchdown for Tony Pollard. Boy, that was a man's run now.
Oh, what a run that was for Tony Pollard. That is our drive of the game. It was an 8-play, 75-yard touchdown drive that took 3 minutes off the clock. That was punctuated by that 21-yard Tony Pollard touchdown, and certainly his best run of the season. I think his best game of the season. Drive of the game brought to you by Ford, your Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas, and I do quickly want to tell you about the experience that is the most electrifying event of the holiday season. If you haven't heard about it, it's the Cowboys Christmas Extravaganza. It's powered by Reliant every Friday and Saturday night from now through December 16th. The Cowboys Christmas Extravaganza ignites the star in Frisco with an unforgettable holiday performance showcasing 65 performers, including the world-renowned Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. They've got Santa and appearances from your favorite Dallas Cowboys football heroes. Visit thestardistrict.com for more info. Can't encourage you enough to go check that out. It's an absolutely beautiful scene. And Tony Pollard, after what was, in my opinion, his best game of the season, caught up with the media.
Tony, can you walk us through your 21-22-yard touchdown run, what you saw, how to feel kind of put that on film?
I mean, Coach did a great job, getting us a great play in. O-line, they cleared things out, gave me a good lane to run through, and just being physical, running through arm tackle, and then just making something happen.
What did it feel like to have that play, given the juncture in the game, Carolina had just kind of put it in the touchdown?
It was big, especially for the momentum of the game, They were just coming off a touchdown, getting into a one-score game. So, it was big for us to go down there and get those points.
You hadn't had a run like that in about 6 games. How did that feel?
Man, it felt great. Just being in the open field, making plays, and getting in the end zone.
You guys have looked at 100 yards rushing the second straight week. Can you talk about what's working in the run game now?
Just figuring out what works for us, what we like to run, what we block best, what we do best, and, just getting in rhythm.
What is that for you?
What do you mean?
Like, what works best for you in this iteration of the offense?
Just mixing it up, mixing up the runs that we call, keeping the defenses guessing, whether we run the outside run, pitches, or running through the middle, just keeping them on their toes.
You guys have a quick turnaround. Thanksgiving, you got to watch the Commanders. What's the biggest key as far as being able to enjoy this win, but flipping the switch quickly on that in 4 games, you got to get back on the field?
As soon as we get to Dallas, it's back to work. It's a work day as soon as we touch down, so we got to be ready for next week.
How would you treat your body over the next 24 to 48 hours? What do you have to do?
I'll cut down on the physical, the lifting and the running, and a lot more mental work, watching film, just breaking down film, things like that. Just being resilient. The team that we are had a slow start to the first half. We came out second half with better energy, better execution, and we picked it up.
Now that those 5 guys up front are starting to get a lot of reps together and stacking now, how is it working?
That's doing everything. Just those guys getting on the same page, figuring each other out, how they block things and how they like to do things, just from working to the D tackles to the backers and the double teams and things like that. So it's big, getting that momentum and that rhythm.
Tony, you're 10 games into being the lead back. Where's your confidence level?
I feel great. Confidence-wise, I'm good. I'm great.
There he is, Tony Pollard, after a 33-10 win over the Panthers. Feeling good, feeling great, and he looked like he's getting back to his old form today.
Looked like he had a little burst, a little juice, and
quick.
We looked quicker. Looked a lot quicker than he has in the past. Seen it a little bit better, too.
The 2 and through the hole. Definitely looked much better today.
Yep.
Now, Micah Parsons apparently got a little sick during the first half, and on throwing up in the first half, he was asked and said, quote, pregame, everybody was like, let's take a shot of the C4. And it was something I had never done before. As soon as I put it in, I was like, man, this stuff is strong. I got some water to help put it down. By the 5th play, it felt like my heart was about to jump out of my chest. It felt like CO2 was bottled up in my chest, and I felt like I was about to explode. Eventually, I just started throwing up. It was all coming out. I'm never doing that again. I'm sticking to my routine, said Micah Parsons, after what was a 2.5 sack day.
Yeah.
The NFL has changed his sack total from 3 to 2.5. Jaron Curse was also credited with half a sack in the game. So Parsons' 2.5 sacks tied a career high that he set as a rookie against the Denver Broncos back in 2021. He also took to Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter, and said, they told me I was slowing down. Bet. And then a little bit of a shut your mouth, checks notes, and a hug of the heart emoji there from the lion that is always hungry, Micah Parsons. That might be to a little certain somebody I'm sitting next to right now, Brian Broaddus.
You were part of that, too.
I was part of that.
The question that we asked.
I thought it was a fair question considering the second half of last season and the way, for the first time in his career, Michael wasn't on the stat sheet last week, and that clearly upset him.
No, and the things that you're going off of is at the second half of the season last year, you're absolutely right. Was that the first game where, things were starting to, he had 13 pass rushes with one-on-one against a backup tackle. It's to me, it's your opportunity, your job when you cover this team is to try and find out why an elite player got completely held off the stat sheet. And we've seen a history last year where we had pressures, but you didn't see the sacks.
You didn't see the finish.
It's not all about sacks. I totally get that with Micah. The pressures are important.
Well, and you talked about how he helped Tank get the sack on the stunt.
I'm not like I say. To me, I was really happy for him today that they went back to doing things that we've seen before. He was in coverage 5 times last week. 3 sacks by his team. He even took the opportunity not to talk to the media after the game. He's
vented frustration on social media.
Yeah, he absolutely. Today he's talking to the media. We need to be a little bit more consistent with that then. If you're going to be that guy that, he had a great opportunity last week, and I'll go after him for this one. You had a good opportunity to praise your teammates. Hey, that was a nice job by Neville Gallimore getting home. Man, he beat me to the sack. You could have taken the opportunity and said, hey, played a little bit more in coverage, but I'm glad that when the opportunities, I don't get to do that a whole hell of a lot. But we had several sacks when I played coverage. You could do things like that. Instead, you chose not to. You chose to, and the optics of it looked really, really bad. So, I'm happy for you that you got to get back on the sack totals, because last week you let a backup tackle control you in a football game. That shouldn't have happened.
No, it was uncharacteristic, and effort, I think, was certainly the word that we use. But people like to read a headline and don't go and listen to the context of the conversation. Evidently, the headline went back to Micah Parsons, and that's fine. Whatever you can use to add fuel to the fire and motivate you, I love it.
No problem. I have no problem with Micah Parsons, the player, and all. I just was surprised that, again, a backup tackle held him off the stat
right.
sheet.
We're talking about arguably the best pass rusher in all of football.
Yep.
No question about that. Micah today was fantastic, as he should have been, and he's back being awesome and good. Let's stay away from those shots of C4 there, Micah. Yep. Get back to the normal game day routine. Although, if it's going to give you 2.5 sacks, maybe we should continue that. But I think Micah's going to stay away from it. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout, Bryan Broaddus, here on the official postgame show of your Dallas Cowboys. 877-881-1053 is the number to call, the number to text. We'll hear from Daron Bland. We've got DeMarcus Lawrence as well. Plus, we'll break down the Ring of Honor announcement that happened pregame with Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson. But right now, let's pause 10 seconds to allow stations to identify themselves across the Dallas Cowboys radio network.
Your turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan.
Tolo, baby.
KRLD FM and HD1, Dallas Fort Worth.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
All right, let's head back out to the phones. I know some of you have been waiting a long time. I appreciate your patience. Let's go to Philip in Fort Worth. Philip, how you doing, sir? You're with Zach Wolchuk and Bryan Broaddus.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Just wanted to make a quick observation and then ask if you guys, especially Bryan, would follow up on it. They showed a stat late in the fourth quarter that, and I can't remember the exact number, but something around the name that the offensive line has helped put up 278 yards rushing in the last two games and allowed no sacks. Of course, with the starting five that we anticipated from the beginning of the season, finally for the second straight week. Is the continuity of the offensive line going to show that they are now winning the line of scrimmage? And is that going to allow the Cowboys to be the offensive machine that we think they can be, not like they were in the 90s where it was give it to Emmett in the fourth quarter and get 200 yards rushing, but allow Dak to throw for 300 or 400 yards to 8 or 9 different receivers every time and get enough yards on the ground to be what McCarthy calls complementary football.
What do you think?
Look, if the offensive line can get back to playing at, not even an elite level, but a really good level, then this team's got a chance to do something special. I think when you've gone up against the elite teams, the really good teams, and they're certainly 0-2, as people love to point out, and it's just factual. They're 0-2 against the teams that are above 500. That would be the 49ers, who smacked them around, and the Eagles, and they were a play away from winning that football game. But those are two teams that have two of the best fronts in all of football, and that clearly has given them trouble, especially when it comes to running the ball and being able to be balanced, as you've talked about, Bryan. So if they're able to win in the trenches along the offensive line, and you play in that rematch against Philly, and you play a good front in Washington that you're going to play against, even though they've traded away Chase Young and Montez Sweat, they're still good in the middle. That'll be a tough test for Broaddus and Martin. It's going to definitely help the Cowboys try and make some noise in the postseason. There's no question.
Yeah, the thing that gave me encouragement in the last couple of weeks, you should have been able to run the ball against the Giants, and you should have been able to run the ball against Carolina. The tape showed that, and I'm glad that they were able to take advantage of it to a point, because there are going to be more teams that are more difficult to run the ball against. Philadelphia. The thing with Philadelphia, I think Philadelphia teams don't run the ball against Philadelphia because you can throw the ball on them.
Yeah, their secondary's bad, and their front seven's really good.
So if you had to just sit there, and say we're going to load up and run against Philadelphia, that I'll take my chances there. But throwing the ball against them is too much of an advantage. So I feel like, though, you get into this game next week against the Commanders and don't let them control inside, and you have some success. And maybe it is the crack toss and the toss plays and the jet sweeps. Maybe that's the way they're going to have to run the football. But if they could do that and have days like they did today, where they're having some productive runs, that's good enough for this offense, especially the way the quarterback's playing.
And look, your only way, if you end up having to rematch against San Francisco, which is very possible, the only chance you have to beat them is to win up front. You've got to do a better job along the offensive line of at least giving yourself a chance, and they failed to do so the last time they played them.
Yeah, that's the big if right now. Can you do things against San Francisco? You lose the battles on the offensive line and the defensive line quite a bit.
And as you talked about,
especially this last game, the playoff games defensively, they've done well enough. They've done well enough.
But the offensive line,
yes,
no doubt.
Yeah.
All right, we will get to more of your calls. Anthony, I know you've been waiting quite a bit. Don't worry, I'll get to you. Greg, Dave, we got some phone lines open, 877-881-1053. And I get it, 601. Let's not praise the online yet. Steele had a bad game against the Eagles. He certainly did. But he had his best game, in my opinion, just from the naked eye today. And hopefully that's, turning the corner. He's coming off an injury, and he's better in the rematch against Philadelphia.
He absolutely blocked one of the better, in my opinion, when you look at Brian Burns. Brian Burns can rush the passer.
Stats would back it up, too. And Brian Burns was one of the sack leaders last year.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know how you can't say that the kid didn't play well.
No, he's getting better, and that's what you need, especially in the rematch against the Eagles coming up. And some of these fronts that you're going to have to play, like Seattle, who traded for Leonard Williams from the Giants, Detroit, we've already talked about. You'll get to play them later on as well, and you still got the Commanders twice coming up the rest of the way. All right, we will get to more of your calls and texts. Plus, we will hear from Tank. We will also hear from Daron Bland, the man of the hour. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Experience the most electrifying event of the holiday season. Cowboys Christmas Extravaganza, powered by Reliant at the start.
He did it again. He did it again. Undercut the first down pass, and Daron Bland said, I don't think I've scored in about 2 weeks.
Oh, that is our what a play of the game, and what a play it was. Brought to you by WinStar as the casino of the Dallas Cowboys. WinStar knows what it means to be a star with over 10,000 of your favorite electronic games. The all-new two-story WinStar Spa in Cascades. Their luxury pool complex. WinStar really is the place to feel like a star. Please game responsibly. It's amazing what this young man, Daron Bland, is doing. Daron Bland intercepted a pass, returned it 31 yards for a touchdown. It's his 4th pick six of the season. Bland's 4 pick sixes are tied for the most in a season in NFL history, joining Eric Allen, Ken Houston, and Jim Kearney. And he's got several games left to break the record and hold it all by himself. He's also got the most interceptions in the National Football League since his rookie year last season, and the only Cowboys player to have more touchdowns than Daron Bland is CeeDee Lamb. It's incredible.
How about that? Did you say Jim Kearney?
Kearney, yeah. I said Kearney, but it might be Kearney. Not a player that I watched.
I was about to say, I don't know.
That's back in the day.
How back in the day? 40s?
I can find that out for you in just one moment.
I have it pulled up. How's his last name spelled?
Kearney. He did it in 1972. So
Wow.
Ken Houston did it in 71.
That's what I'm saying.
And Kearney did it in 72. Eric Allen, most recent, in 93. It's been since 1993.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. That's got to be, that's crazy. And you're thinking about in the 70s, how much they really throw the ball, too. I mean, that's...
Different era,
but Eric Allen, a heck of a player, though, too.
No, man, that's, I mean, it's amazing what Daron Bland is doing.
Yep.
And Daron
Bland's a heck of a player.
I'm assuming that must have felt pretty darn good, sir.
I guess so. I guess so. But, when I got that ball, I just when I got up, I was like, I got to go. I got to get find the end zone again.
Is that your best one yet?
Oh, I'll probably say, yeah.
Why?
Just having to actually run the ball, having to actually make some moves, and actually getting up like that, and you don't really give the return like that. So.
Does tying the league record mean anything to you?
I mean, it just makes another goal just to break it, Yeah, that's pretty much.
Were you aware coming into the game the next 1 week tie record?
Yeah. I've been watching.
Was it flashing through your mind as you're streaking into the end zone, or when it's like, oh, I actually did it? Were you thinking that when you got back to the sideline?
I think it was when I could touch the end zone. It's like, yeah, well, I just did it. I tied the record, but and now my mindset, I'm level-headed now. Now I'm trying to go break it.
Can you walk us through it for pick six? Is it a mentality that defensive score mentality?
I'll say that go back to my high school. Playing receiver. Always having that ball in the hands. So once I got that ball in the hands, you just keep it going, try to score.
Can you walk us through it and what you were thinking when he's running that route?
Oh yeah, I seen him running under. He kind of had a step on me at first, so I had to catch up. And then once I caught up and I turned, I seen the ball. I was like, yes, I gotta go get this one because I only had about 3 targets, so I had to make the most of my opportunities.
The somersault? Or grow up with any gymnastics background?
Nah. Well, there was children in my family.
Did you surprise yourself with just the extension to make that play?
No. I feel like that's the play I can make, any other day. So.
Did you think you were going to get touched when you do in the summer?
That's what I thought at first. Once I rolled over, it got to my feet. It's like, oh, he didn't touch me. I was like, he's going to catch up. I was like, oh, I've got to get out of here. What DB you grew up watching? A lot of DBs is with this game it's like you can't be so adamant about watching one player because you're just being so adamant about one technique. So growing up, I always watched a lot of guys, like you say Darrell Revis, Marshawn Lattimore, like guys in the league, and a lot of guys in the league now, Jalen Ramsey, anybody that played corner, pretty much I watched.
Are you more proud of the 4 pick sixes or the 11 that you've had in 2 years?
I don't know. I guess
it's a good decision.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll probably say just pick sixes because that's a lot harder to do.
Yeah, you're tied for the second on the team in touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's really not.
Yeah,
that happens a lot for a defensive
it's
player.
crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. You think about it, but
Get some more.
Oh, definitely. And try to get a break the record now. So I gotta have some more in there.
Daron Bland, after another tremendous game for him, and people texting in 214, Bland's the Cowboys MVP. Everyone else is just doing what they're supposed to do. 601, loving the way Bland is playing. Would have been great with Diggs. But yes, I mean, Daron Bland last year as a rookie, he answered the call for you. And this year, moving from the inside to the outside, he's been absolutely spectacular. It's a joy watching him play. It really is.
He's got an elite skill set. He really, really does. Kid probably not highly recruited. I'm sure there's some Pac-12 schools out there that, that he probably could have played off. He went to school at Fresno State. They play really good football there in the Valley. A lot of tough guys come out of there, but a lot of smart, heady football players. And, he's one of those guys. He's a hard guy to run away from. You have to beat him on the double move. That's something because he's willing, he's willing to take that chance. Mm-hmm. He's willing to bite on the route in order to go make a play. And so you almost have to take advantage of his aggressiveness. By the way, Josh Allen just throwing another interception before the half.
Uh-oh.
And that thing almost came back all the way.
Yeah, Bill's currently leading the Jets 16-6 as they're now at halftime.
Yeah, but the thing with Bland is that there's a lot of people that missed on him. He has some elite skills, an elite skill set. With the way he plays with his eyes, I talked about it, the way he breaks on the football, the way he stays in position on route, his ball skills as far as, when the ball's tipped or overthrown or him having to go extend to get it. There's not many times. I think they've only seen one time where a ball kind of went off his hands. Other than that, he's going to find a way to make that catch. And he look what he does that run after catch, the way he mentioned it, navigating into the end zone and having to avoid, the tacklers in order to get in. Great job by him overall. He's been one of those guys that, when Diggs went down, you were concerned. I was more concerned of what they were going to do at nickel, with Jordan Lewis. I wouldn't, I'm just kind of was worried about Jordan Lewis. I wasn't worried about Bland playing on the outside for Diggs. I felt like that was going to be fine.
Yes. My concern was the slot,
what was
replacing Bland inside.
What was going to happen inside? That's where my biggest concern was. Absolutely. We got a text 972. Does this confirm Bland and Diggs are your outside corners for next year? If Stephon Gilmore is a guy that you want to re-sign, or there's another player that can come in and play the outside corner, I think that with how important it is to have that slot type of corner, and we see with CeeDee Lamb, right? How often do the Cowboys move CeeDee Lamb into the slot to try and get a matchup advantage? Teams do that with their best receivers. It's so important to have that guy that you can rely on, to where I do think maybe it's situationally, it's when you go into your nickel or your dime that you kick Bland back inside, but I don't think it's a given that you keep Bland outside. It's just a great thing to know that he's capable of doing both. Well, he's absolutely, I think when you start to talk about guys that play on the outside, how they use, some of them can use the boundary as an extra defender. When you play slot, you're having to carry the whole field. And that's the one thing when you watch, what was the interception he had today? If you go back and watch all his interceptions, I would wonder how many times somebody tried to carry him across the field and run away from him and then he's able to make that play. So he's got tremendous vision, field awareness. He's super smart in reading routes. He's just a hard guy to, as a coordinator, I don't know why, unless, like say, you're trying to throw the double moves on him, I don't think I would attack him all that much.
Yeah.
I really don't think. I don't think throwing the ball his direction is very beneficial for offenses.
Let's go to Greg in Garland on line 1, who I believe has possibly a comment or a question in line to the corner conversation that we're having. Greg, how are you, sir, and what do you have for us?
I'm fine. Thank you for taking my call. I've been watching the Cowboys over the last 3-4 weeks, and the weak link, in my opinion, is what Broaddus just hit on. It's Jordan Lewis.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. Is it technique, Broaddus? There's no catch-up speed off the break. He's you were just talking about Bland. He's flat-footed when they make the break, and he's not catching them. It's depressing, and I don't understand. nobody's really talking about that. I think Broaddus talked about it so many weeks ago.
Yeah.
When all this occurred, as far as injuries and that kind of thing. Is it injury, Broaddus? What is it? Elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yeah, I think that. Thank you for the call. I kind of feel like there's a couple of guys in your secondary that don't run particularly well right now. Gilmore doesn't run particularly well. I still think there's things that in front of him that he's able to take care of when he can drive on the ball and, play in a little bit of a smaller area. We've seen him been able to handle those things. But you looked last week, Jalen Hyatt ran by him. And it just so happened, and Hooker got caught in a bad spot too. And it just so happened that Bland was able to play over the top because of all the things we talked about. But I think that Jordan Lewis, the thing with Jordan Lewis is, to me, I think he's a really tough guy. I do feel like he's a smart guy. I feel like, though, that maybe the injuries have robbed a little bit of him as a player. I don't think he has the quickness, and I think he's going to have to make up for it with how he plays along the line of scrimmage. Can he get his hands on people? Can he slow people down? When people have a free run on him, it's tough, and it's not easy playing slot corner because you have to be able to adjust and to move and to turn. And I think his injuries have really taken something from him in that ability to be able to play in the slot that way.
Yeah, to Greg's point, and this was my fear as soon as we found out on air of when we were doing on the flagship home of 105.3 The Fan, home of the Cowboys, the G-Bag Nation, and I was a bit distraught about the Diggs injury. And it wasn't a shot on Daron Bland. I believe, and we're seeing Daron Bland's a stud. It was now you're relying on Jordan Lewis. And for me, that's a tough injury to come back from. Kudos to J. Lou for fighting and coming back. But I just think that's a player that is he's a splash play guy. Mm-hmm. He got that nickname in 2018, Ball God. He had that amazing game against Alvin Kamara on what I believe was a Thursday night, and he shut him down, and the Cowboys beat the Saints. And he's lived off of that reputation a little bit. There'll be one really standout play from Jordan Lewis that'll stick in your memory, and then there's 4 bad ones. Yeah. And for me, he's 100% a liability, and he's a guy during training camp I was wondering, do you move on from him for salary cap reasons? And now it's almost a thank goodness you have him, but if he's going to continue to be the mark, if you will, other teams are going to pick on, I wonder if you start to see a little Izzy Mukuamu down the stretch. He was a guy that Dan Quinn used in that playoff game against Tampa Bay, and amazing his size, the way he was able to slide into the slot. But Dan Quinn will make the adjustments. To me, I believe in DQ, and if J. Lou does end up struggling, he'll find a way to remedy the situation.
Well, maybe use Izzy on the outside and put, depending on how teams
do that.
If teams are really heavy of taking their best receivers and put them in the slot, then maybe it's one of those things where if the best receiver goes inside, then Bland goes with him, and then you put Izzy on the outside. I think the thing with Lewis, I just feel like that maybe the injuries, we've seen this now with everybody that the Cowboys have brought back from injury, or brought back, excuse me, it was poor English there, which I'm major in. But the thing about with him is that these guys are struggling, having to come back. And it's been tough for them to regain the ability that they once had, the quickness, the burst, those things that you have to play in the secondary.
Absolutely. All right, Anthony, we will get to you. We'll get to a couple more of your calls as well. We will talk Ring of Honor with Jerry Jones inducting Jimmy Johnson into the Ring of Honor. That'll happen on December 30th against the Lions. Lots more to go as we roll on after a 33-10 Cowboys win over the Carolina Panthers. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
of the Dallas Cowboys.
Who's your beneficiary?
Almost 13 minutes to play. Young back. Curse is coming on a blitz, and Parsons. They kind of picked up Curse, and he carried the blocker into the quarterback's lap. Oh, it is 2nd down and 18. Young back. Here they come again. Oh, good night. This one was Armstrong in the second wave. 3rd down and 72. He's flushed out again. He avoids one sack. Fumble. And now Donovan Wilson's got him at the line of scrimmage. Did the ball come out?
Came out as he was running. It's out.
Dallas.
That is our defensive stand of the game, brought to you by Reliant and NRG Company. As the Cowboys went back to back, you had the sack from Dorrance Armstrong and Chauncey Golston. Then you ended up having the sack that forced a fumble on Bryce Young that was recovered by Donovan Wilson. The first sack of the deal was Micah Parsons and Daron Bland. So an outstanding 1st, 2nd, and 3rd down sequence there that the Cowboys ended up resulting in a turnover, getting the football back, and that was all she wrote.
Kind of weird that Bryce Young, the fumble that he has, like he was acting like he was flipping the ball and he just kind of flipped it out of his hand, and it ended up being. But it was nice. Hey, the one thing that the Cowboys have been able to do is turn opponents over at home. And, for the fact that they were able to get some turnovers here with the fumble and then the interception as well, that's a good thing. And they continue not to turn over the ball. That's even better right there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get back to the phone. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus here, the official postgame show, your Dallas Cowboys. Coming up at 6 locally on the flagship 105.3 The Fan and the Odyssey app. We will continue the post Cowboys conversation with Alec Medford and our fan phenom winner Blake Elliott. So we'll have more live and local content coming up for you at 6 o'clock as well when we sign off here on the official postgame show of your Dallas Cowboys. Let's go out to Garland where Anthony's been waiting patiently. Anthony, thank you so much for your patience, sir. How you doing and what can we do for you?
Oh, man, the patience, don't even talk about it. You got to do so much good of a good job, man, on this postgame show. Got so much respect for y'all. Tolo here.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, I just really want to kick a shout-out to Jerry Jones, man, putting that pride to the side and finally putting Jimmy Johnson where he belongs in the Ring of Honor. Like I said, I'm a Tolo, so I hear it all the time. We all thought that Jimmy wasn't going to go in until Jerry moved on. Yeah. And just for him to put the pride to the side and finally put him in where he belongs, man, I just want to, hey, man, that just shows a lot of strength and courage. But, Bryan, I got a question for you, sir.
Sure.
How do the Cowboys scouting staff find all these diamonds in the rough? From the 4th round on, I mean, we can name them. Dak, Tony, Anthony Brown, Daron Bland. How do they do it?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
No. That's it. I just need to know, man, because it's like 4th round and on. It seems like that's the best in the NFL.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Anthony.
Yeah, they do a nice job. They really do. And what happens is you take a lot of pride as a scout to be able to go to these schools, and then you got to make sure when you present your player that you present the player in the right way, that the traits make sense to the coaches and to everybody in the room. There was Ross Winchie, who does, I believe, the West Coast stuff for the Cowboys. He's a guy that would probably have presented Daron Bland to the group. And then, as Will McClay running the meetings, Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, Mike McCarthy, everybody sitting there, you have to put a grade on that guy and you put him on the board, and you have to stack your guys the right way too, because there's these traits that, especially when you get late in the draft, and it's more so like in the 6th, 7th round that you're looking for speed or length but with Bland, I guarantee you Bland, even though he was picked in the 5th round, I guarantee you they had him on the board higher than the 5th round. It's just sometimes your board's set up the right way to where it's like it makes perfect sense on who you're taking, because you got the guy saying the 3rd, 4th round, and it's like now we're in the 5th, and all of a sudden, boom, that's our guy right there. It's like a blinking light.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's amazing, and they have really hit well. And
vision for the player.
Yeah.
You have to have a vision for the player.
And that's why we were excited a lot about Eric Scott, who's not been active,
right,
but might end up having an opportunity next year or the year after.
Boy, they gave draft capital to move up a 5th round pick, which is not that's one of those picks you kind of go, okay, we can do some damage with a 5th round pick, but anyway, we'll see. Eric Scott, yeah. Let him have a year to grow and and to understand, because there were things at Southern Miss that he did very well. That
Ball skills.
You and I saw when we were evaluating him.
Definitely a Dan Quinn type of scheme fit there. So that's a player. You look at maybe getting an outside guy that improves in the offseason. He could be in that conversation next year as well for the Cowboys. All right. We mentioned there the Ring of Honor announcement. If you missed it, courtesy of Fox, prior to the game, we had the official announcement of Jerry Jones letting Jimmy Johnson know he is going to be inducted into the Dallas Cowboys Ring of Honor.
And I want you to know something. On December the 30th of 1923, you're going in the Dallas Cowboy Ring of Honor. West Texas. I hope it's 2023. What did I say? 2023. Well, it is 2023. I know you want to get this real clear. Okay, 3 weeks from now.
1923, just, a little bit of a timeline. But 2023 is what we're doing, baby. It'll be a Saturday night home game, 7:15 kick Central Time against the Detroit Lions. And at halftime of that game, we will have Jimmy Johnson, long overdue, being inducted into the Dallas Cowboys Ring of Honor.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking if it was 1923, that's 2 years before the New York Giants were named a team. We could have probably done something with the Packers then. I think we would have been on schedule for that one, so that would have made a lot of sense. But, yeah, and congratulations to Coach Johnson, and congratulations to the Jones family for Jerry. These gentlemen have come out and said, hey, there's no animosity between us and all that, but there clearly was something going on until this day, and it was something that, I think the most important thing that Jimmy Johnson is in to him was the Hall of Fame. For him to be in the Hall of Fame, I think that was super important for him, and that's you acknowledge that. The Ring of Honor thing, I think there was a side of him that was like, maybe it was going to be tough for him to get in. It's never easy. The older you get, maybe you hold the grudges a little more. Maybe you need to let them go, and I feel like that by doing this, though, that it puts Coach Johnson in the right spot.
Absolutely. It's beautiful. I think all Cowboy fans were really, really excited to hear this announcement. An excellent job by Christy Scales during the owner's box, having both of them on and kind of teasing without letting us know exactly what was happening. And then a special moment there with Jerry and Jimmy as maybe now the curse is broken. There's a lot of Cowboy fans that believe there was a Jimmy Johnson curse until he was inducted into the Ring of Honor. Well, December 30th at home against the Lions, maybe we'll break that.
Oh, that would be great. That's going to be a huge game. There's going to be so much importance on that game. It could be for seeding, could be for division. I mean, you think about the Lions; they could be playing for the first overall seed. You just don't know. So there's some important games, and it's going to be nice to have Coach Johnson there as part of that game.
All right, let's get back to the phones. Try and get all your calls in here. We've got Dave on line 2. Dave in Dallas. What's going on, sir?
How's it going, guys? Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I got a question for both of you, but really this question is more towards Broaddus. Mm-hmm. And a couple of years ago, this name was floating around as a free agent, and I saw him play today, Austin Corbett. Yeah. And I was reading about his PPF or PFF ranking, and they said he was a solid player last year for the Browns. And I was surprised the Cowboys didn't get him. I know he had an injury history. So I was going to get your thoughts on that, Bryan.
Well, the guards were something that clearly with this offensive line, that we all really believe that. I thought they were going to play Tyler Smith at tackle.
Yes.
So, maybe I was kind of hopeful that maybe there were some guards in the college, game, our guard down in Florida.
Or Cyrus Torrance, who ended up dropping to the second round and is now starting for the Bills.
Yeah. So there were guys that I kind of felt like that maybe I think with Corbett and others, the Pro Football Focus, I've been at odds with them before.
Yeah, you take it with a grain of salt.
Just sometimes they, not that I don't think they do a good job. I just, scouts kind of are different about when they look at players, and I felt like that maybe that their own guys, that they were the guys that they currently had they probably felt like they were a little bit better than going out and getting a guy like Corbett, but their intent was to play Tyler Smith the whole time at guard, where I was thinking, okay, we'll play him at left tackle, then we'll figure out another guard.
Sure.
But with Zach Martin and others, and I'll tell you what, they've done a really nice job with the young guys that they've had to fill in with. Those guys have stepped up. Bass and Hoffman, and I mean those guys haven't been a liability. They've stepped in, and when they had to play, they've been able to have some success. They're not totally perfect, but man, I would rather go with the young guys. The problem that the Panthers had is their guard spot, was Zavala, the rookie. He was just not ready to play right now. And they're not very good at center with Bozeman. We saw that, and we talked about that a bunch. But as far as the Cowboys go, I had a feeling they weren't going to address the guard situation because of the guys that they currently had.
All right, let's go to Jay in Frisco. Jay, you're on with Zach Wolchuk and Brian Broaddus.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Big up to Coach Johnson. Always wondered what it would have been like if he had stuck around back in the 90s and how many more Super Bowls we would have won. Mm-hmm. But my main question is for Broaddus, and I don't know if it's just me, but just throughout the season, just watching Zach Martin, I don't know if he's lost a step or what, but there's always like one or two plays during the game where I'm just like, oh, maybe I was too spoiled with all the great years that he had. Are you seeing that he might be slowing down a bit?
Well, that's you think you're going to draw me off sides with some slowing down comments.
Hey, maybe
that'd be a question.
Zach Martin play like Micah did today. Yeah, maybe we should.
Maybe I feel like there might be some trolling going on here. But yeah, the thing with Zach Martin is that the Cowboys this year have faced a pretty strong group of defensive tackles, and I always grade these offensive linemen on grade all 65 plays. And Zach Martin will admit it. We have him on the flagship station here, 105.3 The Fan. Matter of fact, he'll be on with us Monday this week because we've got these Thursday
different schedule. Usually Thursdays at about 5 o'clock.
Usually about 5 o'clock on Thursdays. But Zach will tell you, man, like going up against Dexter Lawrence's and guys like that, it's tough. You're going to get knocked around a little bit, and it's happened to him some. It hadn't. There's been times where he's knocked guys around himself, but it's really more of a. I think it's a little bit more of every once in a while these really good defensive tackles will catch him.
Yeah,
and it's not every play,
especially the younger. I mean, him and Jalen Carter versus Tyron Smith was also fun. But you can tell. I mean, we got to talk to him this week about that and just how athletic and big Jalen Carter is. And I mean, during the holdout in camp, we heard some whispers about how much longer Zach Martin was wanting to play.
Right.
And you never know. Maybe this could be the last year of Zach Martin. He's going to have those at his own terms, and I think we all want him to stick around as long as he can. It's been a Hall of Fame career for him, but I think he also is probably aware where he's at in his career.
Absolutely. It looks like there might be an injury to Geno Smith.
Geno laying down on his back.
He's laying, and it's like he's holding his. It's like he was holding his wrist there. He might have got hit.
Pressure from Aaron Donald.
Right
as
up.
Soon as he was throwing, it kind of hit his throwing arm.
Yeah, he was trying to follow through, and then Aaron Donald caught him flush right in the face.
That was a big hit. As the Seahawks currently leading the Rams right now as they're playing at SoFi Stadium, 16-7. Seattle's got the lead. But that's something to monitor as the Cowboys will play Geno Smith and the Seahawks the week after Thanksgiving, Thursday night at home. All right, let's go to Jamie in Kentucky. Jamie, how are you, sir?
Great show, guys. And being a school teacher here in Kentucky, I want to thank Broaddus for doing his homework every week on the film study and really teaching us the little things that sometimes we don't see on Sunday or Monday nights.
Well, I encourage you real quick, if you can get that, and I know we're late in the year, if you got the NFL.com, the All 22, you don't have to be a former scout to look at that. You could get it. I know it's not a cheap thing, but man, it sure helps you on a weekly basis kind of understand how your team's playing. So, but I appreciate your kind words. What do you got for us?
Real quick question. I love defense and special teams more than I do offense. So I watch the defensive players a little more closely. But which player is flying under the radar on defense that's not really, like a Micah Parsons or a Bland that's just so consistent and really just catches your eye every week, just his consistent play? my vote for that is Armstrong.
I like what you're saying there. Fowler's been that guy for me up until Fowler was one of those. I even in the pregame show with Eric Chiafalo, we were talking about Fowler's got a little David Irvin to him.
Yeah.
Where he plays like 10,
one
12.
awesome game, and then where is he?
Well, no, it's more like that he plays only like 10 snaps.
Yeah.
But then he has a tackle for loss or a pressure or a
You
sack.
notice him when he's in the game.
You notice him, and Armstrong is a guy that I think he has absolutely developed. There was a time where I kind of was a little bit worried about him, but man, every year he's gotten a little bit better and a little bit more consistent. Playing the run. We all know he can rush the passer, but man, we're all trying to find that Tank Lawrence guy out there that can play. I really thought that Golston can be that guy.
I thought Golston
could play the run.
As well.
He could play the run,
moving him inside a defensive tackle.
But he's he had a half sack today, right? Didn't he?
Yes, he finished with a half sack.
Half sack. But to your point, I totally get what you're saying about Armstrong.
All right, last call that we'll have time for, and then, of course, you can feel free to stay on the phone lines, as I mentioned, locally on 105.3 The Fan, the flagship home of the Cowboys, and on the Odyssey app. We'll have Alec Medford and Blake Elliott continuing with you.
Take your calls.
They'll take your calls. Let's go to Ran in Cleburne. Ran, how you doing?
Terrific. How you doing, Bryan and Zach?
Fantastic.
Excellent, thank you.
Fantastic. Hey, thanks for taking my call. I was going to ask you guys, how difficult is Daron Bland making the decision on Trayvon Diggs' contract?
Well, Diggs is already signed, right?
Yeah, so
is that what you're asking, or like what?
Yeah, no, I mean
that they paid him?
on the next up.
Oh, you know what? Stephen Jones loves these problems. He really does.
You can't have enough good corners.
He is. You know what? We've talked to Stephen Jones a bunch, and I worked for the Joneses for 14 years. They will figure out ways to pay these guys. If you're a good enough player, they will figure out a way to pay you.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll pay some guys that you probably think they shouldn't pay. But I will say this: this is a problem that Stephen Jones, whether it's Diggs, Bland, any one of these guys, Tyler Smith coming up maybe in a few, that they welcome these. Because they know
CeeDee Lamb currently.
CeeDee Lamb, exactly. They know they have to do it. They'll make the determination and they'll figure out the spreadsheet and they'll get it done.
And the good thing about Bland is you still got 2 more years left of him on a rookie deal.
Right.
So you don't have to worry about that for a little
No.
bit. But they keep hitting on their draft picks. This is what they end up having to deal with. And you're right.
This is a good problem.
Stephen and Will McClare, hey,
Yeah.
I'm for it. Just keep giving us talent and good players. We'll find a way to make it work. All right, we'll put a bow on this one, look ahead to Thanksgiving, and give you our player of the game. You're listening Dallas Cowboys football. We'll continue in a moment.
It's big, it's good, and it's only for Cowboys fans. It's the Cowboys Special from the Cowboys and Papa John's. Get a large one-topping.
best in Texas.
Young in an empty gun. Snap comes back. Pressure's coming again. Oh, good night. Oh, they're going to hurt him. Parsons was first. Wow, what an explosion for Micah Parsons.
Micah Parsons, 2.5 sacks today. A fantastic performance for him. Also was third on the team in tackles with 6. Quite the bounce-back performance after not being involved on the stat sheet last week. He heard the noise, and he was fantastic today and certainly made the most of some opportune matchups.
Yeah, it's when they move him around, we've seen Dan Quinn and how he operates with him. But, yeah, Micah wasn't as good as Micah normally is last week, and if he heard the noise or, good for him. If it takes people talking about you to kind of get you motivated to do things, that's good because they're going to need him. They're going to need him not to slow down. They're going to need him to be as effective as he was today. They're going to need him to sack. They're going to need him to pressure. They're going to need him to do all those things. And especially when he has matchups that he should win, he needs to win those the majority of the time. He doesn't need to let a backup tackle block him. That's just the bottom line right there. You have 13 pass rushes, single pass rushes, against a team that had a compromised offensive line, one of the worst offensive lines we've seen all year. That's, you have a high standard for yourself. You talk about how the lion eats and all that. Well, you've done a great job of taking advantage of some bad offensive lines. I felt like this offensive line was probably a little bit better than what you faced last week. So good for you. If you hear the noise and you get motivated by it, then by all means, let that be the thing that carries you.
Micah Parsons is our player of the game, brought to you by Jack Black. Want to use what the pros use? Jack Black is the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit getjackblack.com today. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus, the final segment of the official postgame show of your Dallas Cowboys. A reminder, if you are listening locally on the flagship home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan, or just on the Odyssey app, you can stick around for more post-game content as Alec Medford and Blake Elliott will be rocking with you for the next few hours as well, taking your calls, talking Cowboys, having some great guests as well. As we put a bow on this one, let's look around the rest of the National Football League. We did get news regarding Seattle as Geno Smith has a right elbow injury. He's questionable to return to the game today as they currently lead the Rams 16-7. Their running back, Kenneth Walker, already left the game today with an oblique injury. Seattle also plays Thanksgiving night against San Francisco, and then they play the following Thursday at AT&T Stadium against the Cowboys. So something to monitor there, the health of the Seahawks moving forward.
These games happen quick, especially when you're part of that Thanksgiving Day game, and then they turn around and you have to play the following week on the Thursday. So we'll see. This time of year, it's a little bit about the attrition. And, man, it seems like all these quarterbacks, we're just losing them right now at just such an alarming rate, with some of these injuries.
The Lions were able to rally and get a last-second touchdown run from David Montgomery as they were down multiple scores and came back to beat the Bears at home 31-26. They've won 7 in a row. They improved to 8-2. They're 4-1 at home. You had Jared Goff with 236 yards, 2 touchdowns, overcame a 3-interception game. I told you this, Brian, they've turned the corner because historically this is a game the Lions lose. They don't rally to come back and win, but they're winners now.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And, the Bears really had them dead to rights. I felt like a good enough lead with 3 minutes to go, but just could not close that out. Dan Campbell has made a huge difference. They've done a great job, too, with their roster. Their quarterback doesn't make mistakes. I think he did have an interception today, but normally he's not one of these guys that puts the ball in harm's way. And so, good victory for the Lions. That's a team you're going to see here in, we talked about that the end of December. It could very well be for division supremacy when you're looking at the Cowboys maybe going forward or the Lions, or maybe you're talking about seeding as well.
Could be big.
That's going to be a hell of a game.
Could also be maybe a playoff preview as well between those two. If the Cowboys don't win the division, maybe you're headed to Detroit potentially as well in the second round or wherever it ends up being. 49ers leading the Bucs right now with just a couple minutes to go in that one, 27-14. Brock Purdy's got 3 touchdown passes, and the Bills are leading the Jets 29-6 as they play in the third quarter of that one. Josh Allen, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. And I mentioned the Seahawks leading the Rams. Earlier today, how about the Browns? No Deshaun Watson. Their defense leads them to a game as they steal one with a game-winning field goal against the Steelers, 13-10. They improved to 7-3. They're 5-1 at home. They knocked the Steelers to 6-4.
Kenny Pickett is really struggling to play. I mean, and I know the Steelers. I know we have a lot of Steeler fans out there and stuff like that probably listen and all that to our station and things. But man, they do not score. The Steelers just are struggling on offense, and it's amazing how they're able to do that. You know, with they're a very well coached team, but they get in some of these games where they should be able to win and finish them off, like one today. You know, not taking advantage of a backup quarterback, can't get enough points, you know, to win that game in Cleveland, and that's kind of what's been happening with the Steelers as of late.
Packers knock off the Chargers at home 23-20. Dolphins beat the Raiders 20-13 at home to improve to 7-3. How about the Giants going on the road to Washington? They beat the Commanders 31-19. Commanders now improved to 4-7, and they'll be the Cowboys' opponent on Thanksgiving in a couple of days.
Well, they fall to 4-7, right?
They fall to 4-7.
Yeah,
Giants improved to 3-8.
Yeah, the Giant that right there, that is a bad loss for the Commanders, and we'll see. Well, you know, maybe you get a little bit desperate team theory. The Cowboys have faced Commander teams in the past that probably weren't the best. Colt McCoy, I remember coming in here and winning. Yep. So if I'm the Commanders and on a short week game plan, and I see that you're struggling to stop the run the way that they were, I would anticipate this is going to be a game where they try and run the ball on you and see if you're good enough to have the physicality to stop them from doing it.
Jags beat the Titans 34-14. They improved to 7-3, and then the Texans over the Cardinals 21-16. Texans are now 6-4. Yeah. C.J. Stroud, 2 touchdowns, did have 3 picks, but Tank Dell was brilliant for them as well. So there's your trip around the National Football League. Cowboys, of course, beating the Panthers 33-10. Any final thoughts on this one before we look ahead to Thanksgiving?
Nope. We get to start to watch the Commanders film tomorrow. We'll get it all lined up for you and look forward to being with you again post-game on Thanksgiving, man.
Yes, so we'll have a 3:25 start, so pregame coverage probably about 12:30 on the Dallas Cowboys radio network. Postgame will go until 9:30 here. A Thanksgiving Day feast as the Cowboys will take on the Commanders. Always love Thanksgiving. It's very, very special. Hopefully everybody out there is with your family and friends, and you're celebrating, having a great time. Thank you so much, of course, to Peyton Russell for a flawless job producing for us, to Ross, to Jonathan, everybody who does an excellent job, Tim Collins, Gavin Spittle, of course, Eric Chiafalo, who did the pregame as well. The Cowboys win it, man. 7 of their first 10 games they've won now for 3 years in a row. Credit Mike McCarthy and company for doing that.
Nice job.
Absolutely. And the Cowboys, the quick turnaround, as we mentioned, getting to take on the Panthers. Saw this. Cowboys now have won 6 games by 20-plus points this year. Last time they'd won 6 games by 20-plus points, 1978. All right, we'll be back next week. Until then, you're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Every moment, every touchdown, every yard is a reason to celebrate. If anyone knows that, Ciroc does.